106.3.
1, 2, 3.
I think it was a good game. Had a couple of big plays.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Discussing the big sports stories of the weekend. This is Michelle and Junnie. With Michelle Knezovic and Junnie Riddle. Presented by Superbook Sports on 102.5 and 106.3. The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Good morning. Right here from Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, Tennessee. You are tuning into 102.5 The Game. Michelle and Junnie. Junnie Riddle here waiting on Michelle Knezovic, who got stuck in a little bit of traffic this morning. She will be joining us any minute now. But a lot of things going on, especially here locally, that we have to talk about. We're broadcasting live from Barrel House inside of Bridgestone Arena, where out on the plaza here at Bridgestone, they are set to unveil the Pekka Rinne statue and all those events. Sean Henry's going to be speaking. I'm sure a bunch of people will be speaking. Pekka will be here in person, and anybody is free to come out here on the plaza to be able to witness, go on Broadway, go on some of those rooftops to get a good view of what's going on, because this is a very special day here in Smashville. The Preds are set to face off against the Seattle Kraken, game 2 of their little mini-series here in Nashville, where the Preds won in a shootout this past Thursday. Switching over a little bit to the NCAA tournament as well, both 1 seeds that were remaining in the Sweet 16 last night fell. San Diego State knocked off Alabama, the number 1 overall seed, 71-64, in a really back-to-forth thriller. And then Miami knocking off Houston, who was the number 1 overall team in the AP poll for much of this season, beating them pretty handily, 89-75 to advance. Princeton also taking a loss to Creighton last night, and Texas handling business against Xavier. So we have our Elite 8 in the NCAA tournament. We're going to be getting into some Tennessee Titans today, as well as Mike Clay from ESPN came out with an article that kind of puts the Titans in the bottom 5 roster grades overall, based off of all the free agency moves that teams have made. So we got a jam-packed show that we're going to talk about this morning. But the first thing I really want to get into is this NCAA tournament. Wow. Flat out wow. We are now seeing an Elite 8 to where not one single 1 seed made it in. Not one. And, we're talking about some pretty good 1 seeds here. Like Alabama was the winner in my bracket. I thought all year long this Alabama team was the best team in the country. And I know a lot of people were rooting against Alabama because of everything that they had going on. I completely understand that. It makes perfect sense to me why you wouldn't want Alabama to win. But Alabama took a huge loss to San Diego State. They fell down early. They were down by about 5 points at the half. Bama comes out raging in the second, takes about an 8-10 point lead, and it looked like that they were starting to hit a groove. But San Diego State, man, flipped the switch in that second half after being down, and they just went on a tear. Alabama couldn't hit a perimeter shot to save their life towards the tail end of that game, and the number 1 overall seed falls. And as Michelle Knezovic tweeted out earlier, or late last night, that after Bama lost, that the last number 1 overall seed that won the NCAA tournament, it's been 10 years, 2013, the Louisville Cardinals, my hometown team, was the last number 1 overall seed to win. But Houston losing to Miami. I didn't get to watch this game. I primarily watched the Alabama-San Diego State and also the Creighton-Princeton game. I was going to flip over to Texas-Xavier, but Texas just mollywopped Xavier. You talk about a team that's getting really hot. But this Houston game against Miami controlled this game the entire way through. I mean, it seemed like they just came out and had Houston's number. Michelle and I talked about it as well as she's rolling into Barrel House here with her iced coffee. Not one single spill yet this morning, which is absolutely excellent. But meanwhile, getting back into this NCAA tournament game, Miami beating Houston, just absolutely running through them. And we talked about Miami. Miami, an ACC team. ACC, not a very good basketball conference this year, but flat out, Miami has some really good guard play.
Yeah, they got the ACC Player of the Year. Hey, y'all.
Hello.
Listen.
How we doing?
Real quick, not to hijack this, but should have listened to Sean Henry on Friday.
Why is that?
He said that Fifth Ave was going to be closed.
Oh.
And I'm like, do I turn here? Do I turn on 4th? I'm like, no, I'll turn this way, come around that other way. Oh, no. And then.
You sound out of breath.
Oh, I'm a little out of breath. And then I park.
She's got her running shoes on. She was ready to go.
I got my running shoes on. Shout out the Preds head of security, Bill. I'm fiddling through my bag. I can't find my credentials. They're like, ma'am, you got to go all the way around. I'm like, oh, gosh. I would have been here on time. I'm like, I can't find my credential. I think it's in my car somewhere. And then Bill's like, oh, you're 1025. Bill, my saving grace this morning.
See, I need to meet Bill on a personal level because they actually did make me go around. I parked in the parking structure. They let me in, and I used the whole, I work with 102.5 The Game. They let me in, and this time around, they made me walk around to this
okay. You get the steps in. We both got our steps in this morning, Junnie. I don't know if you saw, and I know we're talking basketball right now, but a big day for the Nashville Predators. When I was driving around, the entire plaza is set up. They have a stage. I mean, fans, Preds jerseys, people are.
Are they already out and about?
They are already out and about, getting their spots on the plaza. Not gonna lie, it looks kind of cool. Even though I was a little late, got to see so many people arriving there. The ceremony will start at 10 a.m. for the Pecorine statue unveiling.
Well, good. I mean, I'm glad you actually got to go out there and at least see the crowd and engage the interest. Because, listen, I think Predators fans are one of the most underrated fan bases, out there. I mean, you don't hear about them a lot. They got highlighted big time when they were in the Stanley Cup in 2017. But, I mean, this is a passionate group. And the fact that you can get these guys, puck drop is until 1 p.m. against the Seattle Kraken here at Bridgestone Arena. And we already have fans lining up at 9 a.m., 4 hours before, just to get a glimpse of Pecorine and this new statue that we're all so eager and excited to see. So a very special day for a very special player and a very special person in this city.
Yeah, Max, we had Sean Henry on.
Did you call me Max?
I was texting
She's
Max.
at it again.
I was texting Max because he's going to be down there, and I want him to send videos so you can check out the 1025 The Game social media pages so we can put some up there. But Max is going to have the man who created this sculpture on the pregame show right after we get off the air. So Junnie and I will actually be until noon today. Then we'll transition to the Preds pregame show. Max will have the man who sculpted this. He's a Clarksville native, makes statues like this all the time. I mean, this statue has parts of, Pekka's stick and some of his gear. So
some of his pads as well. And he said that he's the only person that has seen the finished product.
Scott Wise will be on with Max. He is the man from Clarksville, season ticket holder for the Nashville Predators. So just all around. Here we go. There's pictures from the plaza already. People lining up just all around. It's all, you can see it's covered. So
that thing looks absolutely massive.
So about 800, 900 pounds. It's like 11 feet tall. Pretty remarkable. They closed the time capsule earlier this week where friends and Predators, workers, players, everyone was able to, write some letters, put some memorabilia in there, and in 35 years, they will go back and open that time capsule. That's always something that I wanted to do in school that my school never did.
I was about to say. I was like, I want to be involved in the time capsule. I'm like, why did we get sent over this memo? I want to come back in 35 years. My son, who was just born in 2022, I can bring him back as a 35-year-old man and be like, hey, your dad put something in a time capsule. You want to come read it? He's probably going to be like, no, I don't care at that point. But, I don't know. I just thought I've always wanted to do a time capsule too. Never gotten the opportunity to do it. So I feel like we missed out.
Pretty amazing, historic day here in Nashville, in Bridgestone Arena. Pekka Rinne is going to be here, but they also have a game coming up at 1 o'clock. So we're going to talk about all of it throughout the show today. As I mentioned earlier, Junnie and I will be on the air until noon today. You get 3 hours of us, and then we're handing the reins over to Max Hers as he will have your pregame show, and Puck Drop is at 1 p.m. today. Seattle Kraken, again, the doubleheader here this weekend. But I'm asking fans throughout the entire show. Junnie and I are going to discuss a lot of different topics. There's so much going on in the sports world right now. But in honor of today and in honor of the Pekka Rinne statue unveiling, we want you guys to text us, call us, and tell us your favorite Pekka Rinne story. If you ever had the opportunity to meet him, one of your favorite things about him. Today is such a special day for him, for the Nashville sports world, for the Tennessee sports world. I mean, to get a statue of yourself in front of the arena you played in, it just it symbolizes the impact not only on the ice, but to the people who work in this organization, to your community, and it is one of the highest honors, Junnie. You talk about having your jersey in the rafters. Well, having a statue out front is even a step further, and it just shows that he is the version of the player and the person that they want to be a part of this organization. So Predators fans, text us, call us, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Tell us your favorite Pekka Rinne story. Are you going to be here on the plaza today? We want to see your pictures. Tag us at 1025 The Game. And also, Junnie and I are starting a hashtag. Hashtag Pack the Plaza for Pekka. So we are just going to discuss that all on the show today. Coming up next, though, Junnie and I are going to switch gears, talk a little NCAA basketball, talk a little Tennessee Vols. Vols fans, how are you feeling this morning? And coming up at 9:30, Jack Pilgrim of Kentucky Sports Radio is going to join us. Jack was at the Kentucky Football Pro Day yesterday. Mike Vrabel was at the Kentucky Football Pro Day yesterday. And Will Levis put on quite the performance. We got a packed show today. Coming up on Michelle and Junnie on 102.5, 106.3 in the Game Nashville app.
Ever tried to shop for a diamond online? They all look great on the computer screen, but the fact is, most reputable jewelers like Genesis Diamonds wouldn't touch them with a 10-foot pole.
These are the diamonds that nobody wants to buy. We call them the B-quality diamonds.
That's Genesis owner Boaz Ramon, who says that even diamonds with the same grade and specs on paper can be very different when you see them up close in person, especially the ones from online dealers.
Those diamonds gonna look always cloudy or dirty. It's like you're wearing your glasses and there is fingerprints all over the glass. You just don't understand, or nobody told you that the material that this diamond was cut from was not the best material.
Why risk it? At Genesis Diamonds, they screen thousands of diamonds and only choose the best of the best for maximum brilliance, sparkle, and luster. Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
I'm Boaz Ramon, and my accent is always on value.
Every Wednesday at 8:30. Call. Join Robbie and Rexroad for The Choice is Yours.
2 sports questions, 2 non-sports questions.
They'll answer a couple of questions about life and sports. The Choice is Yours is built by Jarrett Companies. You have a choice. So when you have a need for site and utility work, fire protection, concrete and asphalt services, the choice is simple. It's Jarrett Companies. For more, visit JarrettCompaniesInc.com. The choice is yours. Wednesdays at 8:30 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Get a great deal on one of the most versatile tractors in the industry, the Kubota L, which is part of Kubota's tractor lineup, rated #1 in durability and owner experience. Stop by Krebs Kubota today to bring home select L Series equipment for $0 down. 0% APR for up to 72 months, plus save up to $800. Now through June 30th, see Krebs Kubota or go to KubotaUSA.com for more details. Krebs Kubota, Middle Tennessee's preferred equipment dealer. Columbia, Franklin, and Murfreesboro. Online at KrebsKubota.com.
Middle Tennessee, you can count on an award-winning service team for all your home maintenance and improvement needs. Lee Company, we're A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau and trusted by thousands of homeowners in our community. Our team is ready to assist with all your home maintenance projects, heating and air conditioning, plumbing, electrical, appliance service, and more. Experience the convenience of calling one phone number for all your home maintenance needs. Call Lee Company today at 615-567-1000 or visit leecompany.com.
Want to see our smiling faces? You can watch us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live.
We are good to go.
Presented by Superbook Sports, voted #1 sportsbook in Vegas. This is Michelle and Junie.
Really? That's fantastic.
Presented by Superbook Sports on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and on the Game Nashville app.
Saturday, Nashville. Welcome into Michelle and Junie, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. We are live from Bridgestone Arena this morning. We'll have you covered all the way until noon, then hand over the reins to Max Hers for the Predators pregame show. The plaza is starting to get packed right out front of Bridgestone Arena. You got the Pekka Arena statue unveiling this morning.
The hashtag is working.
The hashtag is working. Hashtag pack the plaza for Pekka. The ceremony will start at 10 a.m. David Poyle will speak. Pekka Rinne will speak. Sean Henry will speak. And the statue is covered out front. They've got a stage. A lot of Predators fans are out there in their gear today. So come out. Come see Pekka Rinne's statue. Looks like it's going to be a pretty awesome ceremony. We are getting pictures from friends who are out there because we are hosting the show in here, Junie. But very exciting morning for the Nashville Predators, for the entire organization, and Pekka Rinne. So throughout the show, text us, call us, tell us your favorite Pekka Rinne story, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. So, Junie, you started discussing, the tournament and some of the games that we saw last night. Looks like no Big Ten or SEC teams are in the tournament anymore. And if you look at some of the teams that are still standing, it's not a sexy group as far as
not at all.
big bloods and Power 5 schools, and I absolutely freaking love it.
Oh, I do too.
And it just shows the parity in college basketball. So this was a tweet last night, and I know Princeton since has been knocked out, but the tweet is, one of San Diego State, Creighton, Princeton, Kansas State, Florida Atlantic will play for the national championship. So, I mean, you hear those names and you have to smile because these are teams that we don't see constantly in the conversation to win a national championship. I mean, we talk about the Blue Bloods all year round. There's no Blue Bloods in it. And as much as I love my Kentucky Wildcats, I'm not shy to say that. I love that we are getting to see so many different programs being able to compete for a national championship. You mentioned Miami. They have the ACC Player of the Year, their point guard. They took down #1 Houston last year. So no #1 seeds, Junie, will advance to the Elite Eight.
When is the last time that's happened?
I was trying to figure that out last night. I was trying to figure out, who is the lowest seed to have ever won a national championship. When is the last time?
Was it UConn in 14 when they were a 9 seed and they beat Kentucky? Was that the lowest seed that's ever won?
That is probably up there, I would say. I know that the lowest seed to have ever made an Elite Eight is a 16 seed, which St. Peter's did last year. That was the first time.
They were 15.
Nope, St. Peter's was 16 seed. Oh, 15. I'm sorry. They were 15 seed. The first ever 15 seed to advance to Elite Eight.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you look at the college basketball world right now and we talk about all the teams we discussed that were in contention or people had as their Final Four in their bracket, I think I can confidently say that UConn is probably one of the last teams standing that people had put on their bracket to make
Texas.
a deep run. And Texas.
I feel like a lot of people had Texas in the Final Four. I mean, when I was looking at people's brackets, Alabama versus Texas was a really hot national championship that people were predicting. Texas had gone through a lot this year with the whole Chris Beard situation, losing out on your coach, interim coach coming in. They were a perennial top 5 team throughout the season. They kind of slipped a little bit. But as of late, they won the Big 12 championship. They got hot down the stretch. They have a really good, young, talented team that seems to really be putting it together. So as of right now, I feel like Texas has to be the betting favorite to win it all at this current moment. They're the highest seed left. They're the 2 seed. They're going to be facing 5 seed Miami, which
that's going to be a good matchup.
That's going to be a crazy good game. I'm looking at all these matchups really, and what I saw from Creighton and San Diego State. I had San Diego State losing in the first round, which is
me too against Charleston.
Yeah, and it's just like San Diego State has just shocked everybody. Creighton is really no surprise as well. They have a really complete team, really good shooting, and their big man. I mean, he was making a huge impact last night against Princeton. Obviously, a size advantage there, but Creighton looked really good as well.
Junnie, I had Princeton plus 10. Creighton won by 11. I was like, duh.
Well, no,
that is
but
the worst beat of all time.
But that's the thing though, is I was freaking out because I had Creighton minus 10.
Okay,
and so when they were kind of going back and forth with the foul shots and Princeton kept hitting these threes, I was like, no, don't cut into it. So another good day for me. 3-1 on my picks from yesterday. So 6-2 total in the Sweet 16.
I was 4-2 last week, and I can't figure out off the top of my head. I got that one wrong. I know I picked Miami. I thought they would win outright, that was a big win. I picked Texas. So
you picked San Diego State to cover, which they
covered.
They covered all right.
That's kind of the game I wanted to discuss. We talk about the Big Ten and the SEC both having the most teams to make it into the tournament, right? The deepest conferences.
Yeah.
Having 8 teams to make it into the tournament, and now none of them. You talk about the level of play in the SEC. None of them have advanced to the Elite Eight, Junnie. And we're seeing Big 12 was another one of the conferences that was really deep. We haven't even mentioned Kansas State. They're going to be a hard out. Marquise Noel is, I think, my new favorite college basketball player. If you have not watched Kansas State and Marquise Noel, you need to watch them. And they will play FAU, the winner of the UT FAU game. So they will match up for the Elite Eight today. And Junnie and I will make all our picks at 11:45 today. So help you win a little bit of money. But I wanted to bring this story up, Junnie. It's just kind of discuss, or it's just about, college basketball and some of the human stories that we don't see day in and day out. And I don't know if you remember, and Nick, you too, a couple years ago, Keontae Johnson was the preseason SEC Player of the Year, played for Florida, had a really scary moment where he was on the basketball court and he collapsed. He collapsed on the court. It's a very scary video. It got caught on camera, collapsed on the court, had to go see medical care. And it turned out he had some sort of condition which allowed that to happen. And, right, a guy who you don't know if you're ever going to play college basketball again when you're sitting and getting all of these tests in the hospital. And actually, because of insurance reasons, wasn't allowed to go back and play for the University of Florida. And a story came out on Boardroom the other day, and I screenshotted it because I want to bring it up on the show today, Junnie. But this is what it says. Keontae Johnson suffered an on-court collapse in a 2020 game while with the Florida Gators. He was faced with a decision. The NCAA offered a $5 million incentive to call it quits in college basketball, to quit, to not play for another organization. Johnson turned down the insurance payout and chose to pursue a professional basketball career and is currently the star of the Kansas State's March Madness run. And there was a quote by him that said, I wouldn't trade this opportunity for the world, making it to the Elite Eight. And I mean, $5 million is a lot of money. It's life-changing money. And Keontae Johnson he's about a top 50 player, as far as if you look at the NBA draft and things like that. But I mean, just a remarkable comeback story of choosing to play college basketball. I don't know if I would be able to, make that decision. I mean, $5 million, we mentioned it, is a life-changing amount of money, but he decided to bet on himself. And and choose to go to another program, play college basketball, have an opportunity that he's having today to compete to play in a Final Four. I mean, you talk about when you talk to any college athlete, any professional athlete, they make a lot of money, and with NIL too, now the opportunity to make money in college. But a lot of the times it's, I want to win a championship, and that's something you can't pay for. That's not something you can just get, right? It's the highest level of achievement in your specific sport.
I was talking to somebody about this last night, and I wanted to watch the tournament games, and my wife Shannon and I were hanging out with another couple, and we were watching some basketball, and they were mentioning like, oh yeah, like March Madness is great. We just don't typically watch college basketball. And I was like, the unique thing about this tournament and this sport is that, number one, when you get to the tournament, anybody can win.
Yeah.
And number two, especially for those smaller schools, which we're seeing a bunch of small schools still in a position to win, like the FAUs, the Creightons, the San Diego States. Not only do they have to have a really good regular season, but they have to win their conference tournament. And it takes everything to align just to make it into the tournament for small schools like this. And they work all year long just for this moment. And for them to not only have a good regular season, win their conference tournament, which is hard enough to do against teams that you're so familiar with, but to get to the tournament and make some noise. And these are guys that are likely not going to go on to the NBA. These are guys that after their college career is over, they're going to move to the real world, and they're going to have to go get real jobs and not be that star basketball player anymore. So it means the most to these guys because it's such a luck of the draw. And even once you get that luck of the draw, just to be able to get to the tournament and make some noise and go on a run, you're going to be remembered forever at your school because you were a part of that. And it's something that's so special and something that's so unique because there's no other tournament or no other sport that has implications like that.
That has as much parity, too, and the ability of a 15 seed to beat a 1 seed. I mean, we wouldn't see that in college football. It's just different because of, the physicality of the players. Basketball is actually a sport where you can overcome that on the court. So we got some elite games today, and we're also asking fans all show long to text us in your favorite Pekka Rinne story. We have Janice Lane. She texted in and said, my favorite on-ice Pekka moment was when he scored a goal. As a retired Vandy Children's Hospital pediatric oncology nurse, I'm in awe of everything he has done to support our precious patients and his many other charities and works in the communities. Pekka has a heart of pure gold. So what a amazing story. You don't get a statue placed out in front of the arena you performed in for so many years if you're not just a great person. So Pekka Rinne's statue unveiling will begin at 10 a.m. this morning in just about 30 minutes. Text us in your stories all show long. But coming up next, Junnie and I will be joined by Jack Pilgrim of Kentucky Sports Radio. He was at Kentucky's Pro Day yesterday. Mike Vrabel was in attendance, and Jack Pilgrim has been covering the SEC college basketball world. Going to touch on a bunch of different things with Jack Pilgrim. Coming up next on Michelle and Junnie on 102.5, 106.3 in the Game Nashville app.
All the big plays.
Tannehill, Henry, right up the middle, touchdown, Tennessee.
All the big stories.
The Titans' window to contend is however long Derrick Henry stays Derrick Henry.
All in one place. We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3.
Gets it back and scores. Our execution was good.
They have not found their groove.
It's always great to win in this league. It's tough to win.
The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It's the Electronic Express Famous Half Price Fair. This week only, save up to 50% in every department, including all 4K TVs, appliances, laptops and tablets, speakers, and more. You'll not find a lower price anywhere. We guarantee it. The Famous Half Price Fair. It's first come, first served. Sale ends Saturday at 9 p.m. Hurry into any of our convenient locations. Plus, get up to 3 years free financing. The Electronic Express Famous Half Price Fair ends this Saturday at 9 p.m.
Curation CBD, a Picton company, offers high-quality, lab-tested CBD products curated for life for both you and your pet.
Hi, I'm Adam Intihar, also known as the Dog Father of Nashville. Curation 600 milligram CBD roll-on really helps me get through my training days. Applying it in the morning and again at night helps me take bites from dogs like Zulu or go on adventures with dogs like Lieutenant Dan. Curation is awesome.
Discover the full range of Curation products online at CurationCompany.com.
Get in on the conversation at 615-737-1025. The game text line is driven by Wilson County Hyundai. Online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com.
I think it's a really good move.
TD, it's never the offseason for ESPN's Teron Davenport.
I mean, that's something you obviously have to look at.
He's always talking about what's next for the Tennessee Titans.
Quarterback is a really important thing that they have to get determined.
Check out TD, Mondays at 1, Thursdays at 3, and Friday mornings at 8:30. Plus, the Talkin' with TD podcast.
Looking forward to that.
TD is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. This is Michelle and Junnie.
Well, thank you.
Presented by Superbook Sports on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and on the Game Nashville app.
Michelle and Junnie, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Happy Saturday, Nashville. Junnie and I are live from Bridgestone Arena this morning. Nick Frazier is with us live from our Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Game Studios. If you want to weigh in on our text or phone line all show long, we're asking you to text in your favorite Pecorine moment, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And now we are going to go to our phone line. Nick, do we have Jack on?
Almost. We are still on the phone with them.
Oh, still efforting Jack Pilgrim. Jack Pilgrim of Kentucky Sports Radio. He was at the University of Kentucky's Pro Day yesterday. A lot of NFL personnel, a lot of NFL GMs, head coaches in attendance yesterday, Junnie, in Lexington, Kentucky, to take a look at Will Levis, a guy who earlier this year was regarded as, one of the top 3 quarterbacks, I think, in some people's minds after Anthony Richardson's performance at the Combine. He has dropped a little bit below just based off of Anthony Richardson's athletic ability, but he was a guy who turned a lot of heads at the Pro Day yesterday, and we asked the question to Tennessee Titans fans on how they would feel about the Tennessee Titans.
Those responses were glorious. Thank you to everybody who did respond, because gauging how Titans fans feel about Will Levis is really, I mean, there are some fans that were saying they would drop being a Titans fan if they drafted Will Levis. I thought that was insane, but
a little dramatic. Well, we're going to go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in Jack Pilgrim of Kentucky Sports Radio. Jack, how are we doing this morning? Thanks for coming on.
Oh, I'm doing great. I wish I were in New York City at the Elite Eight today, but unfortunately I'm not. I'm actually packing my bags and going down to the McDonald's All-American game in Houston, so kind of having to turn my attention to recruiting, unfortunately, now that Kentucky basketball is out of it. But all things considered, I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Good to have you on this morning. Well, Jack, I'm sure you just heard some of our conversation, but, covering the University of Kentucky, Will Levis obviously turned heads this last 2 years ago and this year, in the 2 years that he played for UK, and has been looked at as, I would say, probably the most polarizing quarterback in this year's NFL draft. I know the Pro Day was yesterday. Mike Vrabel of the Tennessee Titans was out there watching him. The offensive coordinator was out there. They stopped at KSR Grill first, Jack, but what was the vibe yesterday just surrounding Will Levis? What are your thoughts on him as a pro prospect? And do you think that he could potentially fall out of the top 10?
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if there is a more polarizing prospect, because you can't have more of a, up junior year and more of a down senior year, and based on various circumstances. And I think if you just look at the grand scheme of things, you can just throw out basically anything that you saw this past year with him, because the offensive line play was absolutely terrible. He got banged up earlier. There were injuries elsewhere that kind of took away some of his key weapons, that really limited what his production, what his upside was going to show anyway. And when he did make some of those troubling decisions and threw some errant picks and some of the issues that we saw down the stretch, it was because he was so banged up and a nervous wreck in the pocket because of how terrible the offensive line play was. He just was not the same player that we saw, confident, swaggy, throwing, 60 yards down the field without hesitation that we saw as a junior. That is the player that we're going to see in the NFL. And I think that's what we saw at Pro Day. He was unbelievably confident. He was loose. He was making all the right throws. And I think he showed exactly what NFL scouts wanted to see, that this past year was more of an anomaly and not who he is in the grand scheme of things.
We've got Jack Pilgrim on with us from Kentucky Sports Radio. Okay, Jack, so, you have watched him this year, 2 years ago, his junior year, which he was very successful, and when he was paired with Liam Cohen, his offensive coordinator, really put him on the map as far as a pro prospect, and this year took definitely a down step. And you mentioned offensive line play, having young receivers out there. But what do you say to people? What do you say to people who say, well, he threw this many interceptions, and at the end of the Ole Miss game, right, he basically lost them the game. In situations like that, just not being able to take care of the football?
Well, he is a guy that is known for his confidence and his swagger. And he turned heads at the combine by saying, I have a rocket of an arm and I can't wait to show it. Like that's what he's known for. And that player was not who he was down the stretch throughout the regular season this past year because, again, he was a nervous wreck. He did not trust his offensive line. He did not trust his offensive coordinator, and he felt that he was going to have to force the issue more often than not. He didn't have that safety valve with Wan'Dale Robinson that he had as a junior. He didn't have Liam Cohen, who he trusted with everything that he had to put him in position to succeed. He felt like he was on an island by himself, having to make plays alone, essentially. And still, he had a solid year in terms of numbers. And if you take away batted balls and some of the kind of fluky interceptions that he had, the numbers really aren't as bad as they look on paper. So I think for, Titans fans, whoever, they're concerned about big picture, what worst case scenario with Will. I just do not look at, if you're going to look at him big picture wise and what you're hoping for out of him, just watch the junior year film, play, hit play, hit repeat, rewind play, like just ignore everything that you saw this past year. He tried to make something out of nothing more often than not, and look at how he performed at the Combine. Look at how he performed at Pro Day, because that is the quarterback that you're going to get. And if you still don't like it, if you still don't like some of the errant passes and the decision-making, I totally get it. But just don't use him being a nervous wreck in the pocket because his offensive line play was terrible and the offensive coordinator was just not good enough as a senior to justify some of that rationale.
We're talking to Jack Pilgrim from Kentucky Sports Radio. Jack, the top quarterbacks, I'd say 3 out of the top 4 going into this draft are out of the SEC. We've been talking a lot about Will Levis, but how do you see Anthony Richardson and Bryce Young kind of matching up with the traits that Will Levis has? And out of those 3 SEC quarterbacks, which one do you feel is the best pro prospect?
Yeah, I guess it just depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for more of a finesse guy, the high IQ guy, I think Bryce Young is an excellent quarterback. I obviously have my concerns about size. He's probably 5'9" and 165 pounds soaking wet. I think that's something to be concerned about if you're going into the most physical sport in league and in all of sports. So, I totally understand that if you have your concerns there. Anthony Richardson, I got to see a lot of him physically. He has all the, Cam Newton, Vince Young, all of the physical traits that you love, but I really was not impressed with a lot of the on-field stuff. But, it's the same thing that you could say about Kentucky and Will Levis, and, the physical traits looked incredible, but, some of the on-field production wasn't, kind of underwhelmed a little bit. So you can nitpick however you want, and just because I know the sample size and I've seen Will obviously more than the other guys, I have complete confidence that Will is going to be a really good quarterback. And I was listening to some of the scouting breakdowns and what they were talking about on SEC Network and NFL Network and everything yesterday. And one of the analysts said that the ceiling for Will is Josh Allen and the floor is Carson Wentz. And it kind of hit me then where it's like, okay, if we're talking about a floor being Carson Wentz for Will Levis, which, Carson is not a great quarterback, and there's a reason why he's bouncing around from team to team right now and struggling to maintain a starting job. But at one point, he was the number two draft pick and did have a wildly successful years with the Philadelphia Eagles. And if that's the floor for Will Levis, I mean, you could. For my money, I would take that bet, knowing what could happen in between those two, the floor and the ceiling there. So,
absolutely,
maybe I'm biased.
I want to transition to a little bit of SEC basketball here with you, Jack. The ACC formerly was the big-time basketball conference, but now that we've seen Coach K and Roy Williams, Jim Boeheim retire, Rick Pitino obviously moving on, we've seen the SEC kind of elevate as one of the premier basketball conferences, something that we haven't seen in a long time. Chris Beard just got hired at Ole Miss. Calipari, we know what he's done at UK. Nate Oates, Musselman, Rick Barnes, Buzz Williams, all these big names. Do you see the SEC as being like the big college basketball conference for years to come with all these big-time coaches and big-time recruits starting to commit to SEC schools?
I do. I love the product. It's kind of a dog-eat-dog conference, unfortunately, and I think that's why there's a lot. The losses pile up, and I just never understood. It was kind of a similar situation with the Big Ten this year. They continue to get top 25 love, and they got the benefit of the doubt for kind of beating each other up, but the SEC really didn't get that same credit. But you look at the NCAA tournament, and obviously it hasn't been this past weekend in particular.
Yeah.
It wasn't very favorable to the SEC, but in the grand scheme of things, they outperformed their expectations given what the seeds have been to at least start things out and getting to the Sweet 16. So I think that it's an attractive destination just from a conference perspective. There's a lot of high-end coaches and Hall of Fame level coaches and talent and pro prospects. And I think the modern style of basketball everybody's fallen in love with Nate Oates, that obviously got him burned last night, but it's still attracting pro-level talent because that's the type of style of play that they're going to be seeing in the pros. You get guys like Brandon Miller, and you get NBA level guys because that's what they're going to be playing at the next level, and that's their ultimate dream and ultimate destination. So I think when push comes to shove, it is really, really attractive because they are transitioning to that modern style of basketball, and it's a dog-eat-dog conference, and I think it prepares them best for postseason play.
We've got Jack Pilgrim on with us from Kentucky Sports Radio. Jack, just taking a look at the tournament as a whole right now, we're seeing teams and programs making such a run that we haven't seen before. I mean, San Diego State, FAU, Miami, even Miami. I mean, they're a 5 seed. You got Creighton in the mix. How refreshing, and I know we might be a little biased because we love our Kentucky Wildcats, but how refreshing is it just not to see some blue bloods in the Elite Eight?
Me selfishly speaking, I'm glad that none of Kentucky's biggest rivals are making the run, so I can not get whiplash trying to do spin zones of why it's not that big of a deal that Kentucky continues to not make runs and other blue bloods are. So yeah, it is fantastic that we're all sitting at home on our couches watching FAU win and San Diego State win and all that. So yeah, it is really cool, and it just shows that how much parity there is in basketball and why there are no great teams this season, and how you can get guys like FAU who dominated in the regular season and didn't get the benefit of the doubt in terms of seeding just because of the conference that they're coming from. And when push came to shove, that they are truly one of the best in college basketball and are deserving of an Elite Eight spot. So, it's been super refreshing to kind of just take a step back and let the madness and the chaos just kind of play out the way it needs to. And, unfortunately, Kansas State is looking for my money like the team to beat as of right now.
Yes.
I know tonight's game, Gonzaga, UConn, that'll probably be the other side of the bracket. Whoever comes out of that game, I think, is going to play Kansas State in the title game. But yeah, it's awesome and super refreshing to kind of take a step back and not have to worry about narratives and spin zones and all that stuff, and just enjoy the chaos for what it is.
And definitely a lot of chaos this year. Going to be excited to see which teams will advance to the Final Four. Got some more matchups coming up later today. Jack Pilgrim of KSR, Kentucky Sports Radio. You want to follow him on Twitter. It's Jack Pilgrim KSR. And you also host a weekly podcast that you can follow as well. Jack, plug your podcast quick.
Yeah, Sources Say Podcast. We're on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, all that good stuff.
Well, Jack, we appreciate you coming on with us today, talking a little football, a little SEC basketball, a little tournament action. Thanks for coming on, and enjoy your Saturday.
Appreciate it, Jack.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Yep, no problem. That was Jack Pilgrim of KSR Radio. He covers specifically Kentucky basketball, Kentucky football, and also the SEC as well. About to head down to the McDonald's All-American game. A lot of those guys are going to be probably heading to SEC schools next year. Going to be an exciting time, but coming up next, we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk specifically about the Tennessee Volunteers. After, more than 24 hours after the loss, how are Tennessee Volunteer fans feeling this morning? Because I think that this season should be viewed as a success. And also, all show long, we're taking your best Pecorine stories. Text us, call us, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. In just about 15 minutes, they are going to unveil the Pecorine statue. You're listening to Michelle and Junnie on 102.5, 106.3 in the Game Nashville app.
They're insightful.
To me, you got a left guard situation you got to figure out.
Credible.
I trust this guy more than this guy.
But sometimes they just argue.
Why do you like the NFL playoffs? Those teams lose.
I don't want college football to be the NFL.
When they get...
Robbie Stanley and Joe Rexroad are Robbie and Rexroad. Weekdays from 6 to 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Imagine yourself in a new Toyota, like the best-selling Toyota Tacoma, with powerful off-road capabilities and the best resale value in its class. Now through April 4th, you can get low 3.99 APR financing on a new 2023 Tacoma, with approved credit through TFS, excludes TRD Pro. And every new Toyota comes with 2 years no-cost maintenance included. Get complete details at buyatoyota.com. Ready, set, go get your Toyota today. Toyota, let's go places.
Have you seen the selection of luxury pre-owned Rolex watches they now have at Genesis Diamonds? If not, prepare to be amazed.
If people really know the watch world, they come in and they're in shock. They're like, I cannot believe you have this selection here. They're able to see them, touch them, feel them.
Meet Genesis watch expert Charlie Rivers, who says over the past few years, Genesis buyers have scoured the world to build a collection of luxury pre-owned Rolexes, including all the hard-to-find models.
Daytonas, Pandas, Sky Dwellers, a huge selection of Submariners, Hulks, Kermits, anything that you could ever possibly want. We have every luxury pre-owned Rolex that we have here. We ensure that it's in pristine condition.
So come in today and find the timepiece of your dreams at Genesis. Or if you already own a Rolex and are looking to trade for a different model or even sell it, Genesis can help you get top dollar.
If you have a Rolex, definitely bring it in. I would love to see it and do a complimentary evaluation on it and see what we can do for you.
Genesis Diamonds, now with one of the largest selections of luxury pre-owned Rolexes in America. Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Later today,
the green flag is in the air and we are underway.
The stars of the NASCAR Cup Series hit the left and right turns of Circuit of the Americas.
He's got a hood out in front, a door panel in front.
Coverage from COTA begins at 1:30 on 94.9 The Fan.
Checkered flag is in the air.
And the Fan app. This is Michelle and Junie.
Really? That's fantastic.
Presented by Superbook Sports on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and on the Game Nashville app.
Happy Saturday, Nashville. Welcome in, Michelle and Junie. We are live from Bridgestone Arena today. Just about 15 minutes, they're going to unveil the Pecorine statue in front of Bridgestone Arena. The plaza is already starting to get packed. They've got a stage out there.
It's like hundreds of people out there already.
Hundreds of people. I know Fifth Ave is closed, so if you have a chance, get down there. Pecorine will speak, Sean Henry will speak, and David Poyle will speak in the statue unveiling. Going to be a pretty exciting scene in just about 15 minutes. But sticking now with the Tennessee Volunteers, we're going to discuss a little college basketball. What is the temperature of this fan base right now? How are you feeling? Because I believe you should view this season as a success. We've got a caller on our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Let's welcome Jeff in. Hey, Jeff, how are we doing this morning?
Good morning, guys. How are you all doing?
We're doing well. Thanks, you.
Good. Hey, my question is, it's going back to the tournament and the seeding of these lower seed teams progressing throughout the tournament the way they are. What do you all think about? Is this like a turn of the tables where the smaller schools that don't necessarily get the high, ranking high school players in that are staying 4 and 5 years through the program, and these team concepts of playing basketball as a team and not just having 1 or 2 great players is why we're seeing these younger or the smaller schools progress?
Yeah, Jeff, thanks for your call. Great question. I completely agree with that mantra. I mean, Junnie, you laid it out earlier that a lot of these, higher seeded and smaller basketball programs, they have to start winning as soon as the conference tournament rolls around because they need to win all of those games. And then if they want to win in the tournament, you just need to just keep going. Whereas, you have the luxury if you're in a Big Ten or an SEC that your conference play or the Big 12, you can lose your second game in your conference tournament and you still know that you've secured a spot. As far as the one and done mantra and just getting, the shiniest toy, the most athletic player, the McDonald's All-American, I completely agree that we are seeing some of these programs advance further because they have guys that stay there 4 years. And that's even been kind of the, I guess you could say, storyline or what we've seen traditionally in March. A lot of times it is these veteran teams that have played together for 3-4 years, 2, 3, 4 years, and they have older teams. I think about a couple of Jay Wright's Villanova teams. It was a core that was together and they had played together for so long. And, I'll add something else to that. It's the transfer portal. It is when college basketball season ends, you have to make sure you know who you're recruiting, who's coming in, who are going to be the freshmen coming in. You have to take a look at the portal. Is there anybody you want to try to go out and get? And you also, all year long, need to be making sure that you're recruiting your own players, Junnie, because the ability to just hop in the transfer portal and play right away for another school has made jumping around in college athletics so frequent. And I think that definitely plays a role. I mean, you look at FAU, this team, this core, they played together for a while, and that just builds the chemistry. It builds the trust when you're on the court. Who are you going to trust to take that last second shot? And I think that was, one of the inconsistencies of Tennessee here this year. It's like nobody felt confident in anybody to take that last shot that they felt they could make. And some of these teams that we're seeing year in and year out, smaller programs, but basketball is basketball.
Yeah. I definitely think Jeff was right on the money with that one. When you have a veteran team and you have all those reps under you, I mean, we've just seen, these teams. I hate to bring it up, but Kentucky being primarily one of them that has gotten a lot of good number one recruiting classes. What has Calipari had, like 5, 6 number one overall recruiting classes with a starting lineup of McDonald's All-Americans? And sometimes those teams falter early just because of the lack of chemistry, the lack of seasons under their belt. Every single year that you're with your teammates and playing together and going to camps together and traveling together and all that time spent adds up to, your chemistry, knowing what the guy next to you is going to do without even thinking about it. So especially when some of these teams, and they're really good at shooting the ball from the perimeter, and getting a little bit of luck with who you're matched up with and which teams are susceptible for upset. Having a veteran team, having guys with seniors, and I think also, NIL money and encouraging some of these players to stay rather than going straight into the NBA allows teams to kind of build up their roster and not have so much turnover from year to year. And it balances out a little bit with the transfer portal, but you got to think with some of these guys getting NIL monies, guys that know that they're likely not going to make it into the NBA as a big-time player, they're going to really take advantage of this NIL money and stick with the college that they're at, make the money that they have, and meanwhile building up a bunch of chemistry with the roster and the recruits that particular team or school is going to get.
Well, and kind of transitioning, from that to Tennessee and them falling to FAU earlier this week in the Sweet 16, Junnie. I think there was a lot of negative energy after that loss, and believe me, I get it. It takes time to mourn a loss, and because you have such expectations for a team like that, but when you take a step back and look at what this Tennessee Volunteers basketball team did this year, that is pretty darn successful. I mean, that is a very successful season. I talk about this all the time. Making it to this second weekend of the tournament is so incredibly hard. And Rick Barnes, in his post-game press conference, made a comment that he felt like the moment was a little bit too big for his team. The lights were a little bit too bright. And the ability to rise to the occasion and have confidence in yourself, have confidence in your teammates to make a shot at the end of the game or, make important three-pointers as the clock is winding down. That is so important, and that plays a role into, how long have you guys been playing together? What is your trust level with your shooters on your team? How consistent have you been all year in practice? And all of these things, start to build up. But I thought that was a really interesting comment by Rick Barnes on, they know these players, and he felt like some of them, their body language out there was that they were uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that we see in championship teams is you need to be able to rise to the occasion when you feel uncomfortable in those moments. And, sometimes that's something that you just can't teach a team.
Well, and for the FAU-UT matchup, I mean, let's look at some of FAU's best player, John L. Davis. He's a sophomore. Elijah Martin, a sophomore. And then we also look at the big man, Golden, in the middle. He is also a sophomore as well. So you're talking about guys that have been in this FAU system for a year. They're a competitive team in Conference USA. They keep that core of those big three players intact. They take that next step because I personally saw it firsthand. When I first went into college, I started doing like a dual enrollment at the University of Louisville for my first semester, and then went on to transfer at Western. But it's a big jump for some of these big-time recruits going from their freshman to sophomore year, and I saw that with a particular player in Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell was coming off the bench his freshman year for Louisville. He was only averaging like 4.5 points a game, and then that sophomore season, that next year, he went to be on a 15-point per game player, became the star of Louisville's basketball team after coming off the bench, and then ends up getting drafted in the first round of the NBA. So you're talking about like some of these teams that bring back these players. They have chemistry with the guys that are returning. It does bring a huge factor into this. And when you're seeing some of these major teams like a Houston, like an Alabama, Kansas, Kentucky, all these teams that have brought in big-time freshman recruits, they're getting eliminated early with some of these more veteran teams that have had a bunch of years under their belt chemistry-wise.
Well, the interesting thing, too, specifically talking about Tennessee, is they had a veteran team. They had a core group of guys who've played together. Zakai Ziegler, second year in the system. Santiago Vescovi, Josiah Jordan-James, Yusuf Plavsvich. They had a core that was older. Key coming in. He's a grad student, right? So they had a team that this core has been together for a bit, and older guys. Rick Barnes said it himself at the end of the press conference. The moment got too big for this team. The lights got too bright. And that is such a narrative that happens with college basketball teams, especially the way this tournament is set up. It is designed that way. That is why this tournament is so hard. And I look at this Tennessee basketball season, and I view it as a success. You made it to the Sweet 16. That is an accomplishment in your program. You've only made it to the Elite 8 once in Tennessee basketball history. To make it to the Sweet 16, that is a successful season. You lost to FAU.
I just think if you don't look at who they lost to, number one, and we've already talked about this, FAU's a really good team. Jack Pilgrim from KSR came on. They are a really good team. He said that as well, that they're deserving to be in the Elite 8. Get over the fact that they lost to FAU. If you were told before the tournament with the way this Tennessee team was playing that they would beat Duke and make it into the Sweet 16, every single Vols fan would have taken that any day. So don't let the narrative drive it. They lost to a good team. They had a good season. Some injuries kind of took them back. But overall, this Tennessee team had a good year.
Switching to the NFL, specifically the Tennessee Titans, why do fans feel so passionately about one specific player? Very, very polarizing. Junnie and I will discuss that player coming up on the other side. You're listening to Michelle and Junnie on 102.5, 106.3, and the Game Nashville app.
The crowd is standing on its feet. It's in the hole! It's in the hole!
Join 102.5 The Game for the second annual Music City Celebrity Golf Tournament, benefiting Souls for Souls, June 7th at Hermitage Golf Course. Put your team together and come play with athletes, musicians, and other local celebs.
Be the ball.
Support a great cause and have loads of fun. Plus, you'll have the chance to win awesome prizes. Sign up to play, sponsor, or donate at theGameNashville.com/golf.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Sports and leadership go hand in hand. In fact, 94% of women executives were student athletes. Play Like a Girl is creating a more equal playing field for the next generation of women in leadership. You can help too. Become a mentor, donor, or volunteer. Learn more at iplaylikeagirl.org/mentor.
Gary Ashton here. People walk up to me all the time and say, "Don't sell without the intel." This message couldn't be more true. Right now, it's a fantastic time to buy or sell your home in Nashville, but you can't do it without the intel. No one has more intel than the Gary Ashton team. So what is this intel we keep hearing about? Intel so you can sell your home without stagings or showings? Intel on where to find your next home so that you can sell your current home while the market is hot? And intel that helps you win the buyer battle and cash in on your home equity. For more intel, visit GaryAshton.com, where we can give you the insight and the most up-to-date real estate intel in Nashville. Plus, the Gary Ashton team is the official real estate team of the Nashville Predators. Get the confidence to sell your home and find the dream address without the stress. Visit us today at GaryAshton.com. That's GaryAshton.com. And remember, don't sell without the intel.
Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 102.5 and 106.3.
A gunny performance.
Do your job.
And the Tigers regain the lead.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Discussing the big sports stories of the weekend. This is Michelle and Junnie. With Michelle Knezovic and Junnie Riddle. Presented by Superbook Sports on 102.5 and 106.3. The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hour number 2, Michelle and Junnie, welcome in. We are live from Bridgestone Arena this morning. The Pecorine statue unveiling is going on as we speak. We are encouraging fans. Text us, call us, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Text us, call us, tell us your favorite Pecorine story. This day is about honoring him. He's going to have a statue now that'll be in front of Bridgestone Arena. We have Jenny texts in from Nashville. She said when the Preds swept the Blackhawks in the first round of the playoffs in 2017, Pekka became a hero to all of Nashville. So I think Jenny is not alone on that one. I think that's going to be probably a consensus around the board. And I love our texter earlier who said when Pekka scored a goal. I think that's awesome.
That's what I was going to think. Yeah, like, not a lot of goalies get goals, but I think Pekka has. Do you only have one? I feel like he has maybe had more than one. Maybe. I'm not positive about that, but I do remember, a bunch of guys back when I was in college when that happened, that they were watching in the living room, and when that happened, we had a bunch of Preds fans, especially from Nashville. A lot of Nashville students go up to Western Kentucky for college. They get in state, and when he scored that game, the whole house went nuts.
Well,
and that was like one of my. Oh, this is hockey. This is what the Nashville Predators are about. This is their main guy. And we're looking up here on the TV screen too. Look at that crowd.
Mm-hmm.
That crowd, that is insane. I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds of people. David Poyle about to step on the stage right now to probably get this thing kicked off here. But wow, what a show out on a Saturday morning
People got there early too. You know, I saw people getting there around 8:45. I'm sure earlier than that. But if you couldn't make it out to the ceremony today, you can also go on to the Nashville Predators website. They will be streaming it this morning too. So they haven't unveiled the statue yet. It will be streaming on the Preds website right now as well. So if you can't get out to the plaza today, go ahead and just go to the Predators website. They'll have a live stream unveiling that statue. And text us, call us your favorite Pekka story. We want to hear all of them. He's meant so much to this community and such a special day for him, his family, and the Nashville Predators. But switching over to the other professional team in the town, discussing the Tennessee Titans. And, Junnie, when you hosted with me yesterday on Chase and Michelle, we brought up a question to the fan base, and they were very responsive. You know when you hit on a topic, when you encourage feedback or you say something about a specific player and you ask Titans fans, how would you feel if the Tennessee Titans drafted Will Levis at 11th overall? And we got answers. We got a lot of polarizing answers. I even tweeted it out on Twitter, and, you know, people as far to go to say, you know, I wouldn't be a fan anymore. I mean, he has been, I personally think, one of the most polarizing figures in this year's draft based off the way people view him. It's either he's going to be a Josh Allen, or it's, well, he is like the worst quarterback ever. He's going to, you know, destroy a franchise.
Yeah.
It has become so incredibly polarizing. But Will Levis has been one of those guys who has been regarded as, at some points of the year, one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the draft. With more mock drafts coming out, he's dropped a bit. Some even have him dropping out of the top 10. The Tennessee Titans are at 11th right now. So, you know, I ask fans, and based off the moves that Rand Carthon has made, they're not flashy. They're not, we're in our Super Bowl, we're going to go for it moves. They're not, we're trading for Mike Evans. They're not, you know, big aggressive moves that you think, okay, we're pushing, we're going for it. We still got Tannehill. We still got Derrick Henry. They are safe moves. They are short contracts, you know, low guaranteed money, but 2 positions that need to be filled and adding more depth to those positions on the field. So when I found out that Mike Vrabel was in Lexington for the Kentucky Pro Day yesterday, Junnie, it definitely surprised me a little bit, because we discussed why it was surprising. When he went to the Ohio State Pro Day, it's not surprising, because they have so many guys who are going to be pro prospects. They have so many guys that you go there to check out. It's not just C.J. Stroud. It's, you know, it's linemen. It's defensive backs. It's linebackers. It's wide receivers. There are so many guys that are going to be transitioning to the next level. Whereas Kentucky, I think there were 11 guys, but nobody an elite prospect. Will Levis is the guy that they went there to go see. And more with the reports of him dropping out of the top 10, more and more I think this team has a new GM. Could they draft a quarterback at 11 and have him sit behind Tannehill for a year? And you think about a new general manager, they want the opportunity to draft a quarterback.
Yeah.
And he turned heads yesterday at Pro Day.
So you laid it out well, and we did discuss this yesterday on the show, but just a continuation for those that didn't hear. Basically what the Titans are doing right now is that they understand that their winning window of opportunity with Tannehill and Henry and this core on offense, at least, is not going to win a championship. That window has closed. So right now the Titans as an organization are going out and filling out their roster, filling out the needs, the positions that we were looking at before free agency hit, and we were like, wow, this team needs a lot. Mm-hmm. They go out and they get a bunch of team-friendly guys, some of which are unproven, not a lot of guaranteed money, not a lot of years on this contract, easily could move off of if needed to be. So what it kind of shows me and tells me is that they're gearing up for a transition. Mm-hmm. And if you ask anybody here in Nashville, do you think Ryan Tannehill is going to be the starting quarterback, after this 2023 season? I think majority of people are going to tell you that is when this team is likely to move on. So right now they are looking for their quarterback. They're looking for their signal caller. And, yeah, they went to Ohio State. Yeah, they probably went to Alabama. but there's guys all over the field that they can be looking at. When they show up to Lexington, Kentucky, you know who they're looking at. And that shows you that they're really probably considering taking a guy like that, especially the way that the NFL draft gurus have elevated Anthony Richardson, and Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud are already considered to be the perennial number 1 and number 2 quarterbacks off the board. Will Levis could be a guy that has a ton of upside that you could get at 11 and sit behind Ryan Tannehill to let him develop a little bit. Personally, I am so sick and tired of fans here locally looking at what people do in college and thinking that they're going to be the exact same player in the pros. Listen, look at the starting quarterbacks that are in the league now. All right, Josh Allen wasn't popping off the page in college.
People were very wrong about him.
Justin Herbert, who's now considered a top 5 quarterback, wasn't even a top 2 quarterback out of his draft. So to sit here and say that,
well, when you got Joe Burrow in your draft class, pretty hard.
Tua as well.
Tua, yeah.
And I'm just putting it into perspective. Jalen Hurts, he didn't. He a lot of people didn't think that he would translate into the NFL, and he has.
Took his team to a Super Bowl.
I'm looking at a guy like a Will Levis. He's got the athleticism. He's got the confidence. He's got the moxie. He's got the arm talent. He can run over defenders and get a first down. He's tough. He's a leader. And this is coming from a Louisville fan. I grew up in Louisville. I don't like Kentucky. This is a completely unbiased take. And I'm just telling you that they are going to look at his intangibles and say, this is a NFL quarterback right here. And I think that if he were to come to Tennessee and he'd still have Derrick Henry and you kind of keep the core on defense, he's going to have a decent roster to set up, and then they can go out and with the limited contracts they have, go get him a receiver, go get him another tight end, kind of beef up that offensive line. And that gives you the flexibility to do that when you have a guy on a rookie contract and you're not paying all these old veterans that are past their prime.
Well, and Junnie, you laid it out there pretty nicely of there are options for this team right now. We've discussed how moving off of Ryan Tannehill next year is a lot easier than moving him off this year. So even if the Tennessee Titans do decide to draft a quarterback in this year's draft, I still think they stay with Tannehill. They allow him to develop for a year and then move on to the young quarterback that they draft. This year is a very play it safe. We've seen that based off of the moves that Rand Carthon has made. But looking at the Tennessee Titans as a whole, there's an interesting article out there that you brought to my attention that ranks the Tennessee Titans in the bottom 5 of the NFL's unit grades in this year's draft. We're going to discuss this all on the other side. You're listening to Michelle and Junnie on 102.5, 106.3 in the Game Nashville app.
For every big pass,
Kevin Harvick takes over the race lead.
big wreck,
Trouble turn 2. One car is around and hard into the outside wall.
and big win.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has won the Daytona 500.
Yeah!
Catch every lap of NASCAR on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, it's Mike from Newton Nissan South. Have you ever thought to yourself, buying a car online? That sounds like a nightmare. But fear not, my friends. With Newton FastPass, it's easier than catching a leprechaun. In fact, our system is so user-friendly that even a leprechaun can do it. And let me tell you, those little guys are notoriously bad with technology. Also, with Newton FastPass, you're practically guaranteed to get a great deal. It's like finding a 4-leaf clover in a field of overpriced cars. And who doesn't love a good deal? I mean, I'd be willing to bet that even the most skeptical among us would feel lucky to snag a great deal on a new car. That's not all. When you use Newton FastPass, we'll throw in a free leprechaun to help you navigate the process. And trust me, these little guys know their way around a car deal. Just be sure to keep an eye on them because they can be a little mischievous. So what are you waiting for? Visit NewtonNissanSouth.com and join the ranks of lucky car buyers. You might even feel like you're living in your own personal pot of gold. And remember, with Newton FastPass, you're always in luck.
Hey, Robbie Stanley here, and season tickets for the Preds 2023-24 season are on sale now. Preds will be celebrating their 25th anniversary throughout next season. Full half and quarter season plans are available, and you can join the Loyal Legion today and receive the best seat locations at the best pricing and up to 50% off discounts on concessions throughout the season and more. Plus priority access to the 2023 NHL Draft and awards, which are hosted right here in Nashville coming up this summer. Check it out at NashvillePredators.com/season tickets.
This week's Nashville's best deal is Eastside Bowl in Madison, a vintage bowling alley, music venue, diner, lounge, and arcade designed by locals for locals. And March 28th, don't miss the Battle of Nashville, Nashville's best Rage Against the Machine tribute band. Right now, you can get 2 hours of bowling plus shoe rentals for up to 6 people for just $45. That's 2 hours of bowling plus shoes for up to 6 people, just $45. Go to thegamenashville.com/deals to get yours now. Krebs Kubota wants to help you get your job done right with the parts you need and a service department that can handle maintenance and repairs from the largest excavator to the smallest 2-cycle engine. For your farm, home, or commercial needs, Krebs Kubota will keep your Kubota running like a Kubota. Krebs Kubota, Middle Tennessee's preferred equipment dealer, with convenient locations in Columbia, Franklin, and Murfreesboro. Also online at KrebsKubota.com.
Anyone want to tell me what happened? Did you miss any of today's show?
It's okay. It's fine. Don't worry.
Subscribe to the Michelle and Junie podcast on Apple, Spotify, and other podcast platforms, or by going to thegamenashville.com.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
This is Michelle and Junie.
Well, thank you so much.
Presented by Superbook Sports on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game, and on the Game Nashville app.
It is that time. They are about to unveil the Pecorine statue in front of Bridgestone right now. Junie and I are inside of Bridgestone, a little jealous that we can't watch it live, but the plaza looks packed. We are watching it on the live stream right now. Pecorine's statue in Bridgestone Arena. Such a historic day here in Nashville. We're asking you to text us, call us, and tell us your favorite Pecorine moment all show long. Junie and I will have you covered until noon, and then Max Hers will take over for the pregame coverage starting at noon. Puck drop at 1 p.m. today. The Seattle Kraken are in town. Doubleheader. Beat them on Thursday in overtime, looking to get another win as they get one step closer to a playoff spot. Pretty incredible statue. I mean, it's bronze. It's 800 to 900 pounds. It's about 11 feet tall. Pretty incredible moment, historical moment in front of Bridgestone happening right now. Text us, call us, 615-737-1025. Your favorite Pecorine moments. We're taking them all show long. April from Portland texted in. She is a diehard Preds fan. April said, 1, sweep of the Blackhawks in the Stanley Cup run. 2, goalie goal. 3, retirement of his jersey. 4, him throwing the catfish and being the hype man at the Stadium Series against Tampa. She said her new puppies' names are Rene and Roman. So love that. April's always been a huge Preds fan.
She is the biggest Preds fan on the text line.
She is.
Diehard. She is always standing by the Preds. And whenever April does text in and she says something critical of the team, I really do take it to heart because, I mean, she really knows her stuff.
She does. But switching back to the Tennessee Titans, Junie, you brought an article to my attention about the Tennessee Titans. And essentially, Mike Clay of the NFL has an algorithm where he goes through each NFL team and he gives each position group a rating out of a 4.0.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a grade point average. And so they go by position, and it's QB, running back, wide receiver, tight end, offensive line. And then on the defensive side, it's your D-line, your edge rushers, linebackers, corners, and safeties. And so it's basically a rating of encompassing all the players in that position group. And the Titans were in the bottom 5 of all the NFL teams in total rating. I'm looking at their total rating right now, and out of a 4.0, they are a 1.4 on the roster scale. And basically what I'm looking at here is it's like a chart, and Michelle's tweeting it out right now. So go to Michelle's
on the 1025
Twitter
the game account.
on the game account here, and basically, if it's below a 2.0, it's going to be in the red. If you're around a 2.0, you're in the white. And the more you get above a 2.0, you start getting into the green, which a 4.0 is like a really like green. So the only green scores that the Titans have in their entire position groups is running back with the 3.6, and we know that's because of Derrick Henry. We got a 2.9 on the defensive line. Think that's a little bit low, but obviously Jeffrey Simmons, T.R. Tart, Danico Autry. That's the reason why that score is as high as it is. And then they go to safety with a 3.8, and we know the reason why that. The mayor of Murfreesboro, Kevin Byard, holding down the fort.
And Amani Hooker.
He's been banged up, but Kevin Byard is really holding that one down. But I'm looking at some of these scores like quarterback, a 1.4 rating.
Wow.
On this scale.
And to put that in perspective, the Steelers at quarterback position have a 1.3 with only Kenny Pickett in his second year.
Unproven, yes.
Unproven, but it puts it in some perspective. I mean, the Saints quarterback have a 1.9, so they're giving Derek Carr a 1.9. So some of this is a bit subjective because I think the way that Ryan Tannehill is viewed on the national scale is very much based off of that playoff performance against Cincinnati a couple years ago, because I believe he's a better quarterback than Derek Carr. But, when you get to the teams that are below the Tennessee Titans, it's the Colts who have a top 4 draft pick or top 5 draft pick. It's the Panthers who are picking number 1 overall. They just got a new head coach. They're drafting their quarterback. They are very much in a rebuild mode. The Rams, who are coming off of their Super Bowl run.
Losing all of their
veterans, their big players, but they just won a Super Bowl not too long ago. And the Texans, who were supposed to pick number 1 overall, but, Bears got it for them. But basically one of the worst teams in the league.
The beauty of it is that 2 of the 4 teams below you are in your division.
Exactly.
Which helps you out. But in the meantime, I'm looking at some of these grades, and it's really sad that at wide receiver they got a 0.1 on the scale. A 0.1. And same with the offensive line. A 0.1 in a position group. Linebackers, get this one. No David Long Jr., a 0.5.
Wow.
And the linebacker scale. You lose Cunningham and David Long. Now you're looking towards moving to, Monty Rice, Chance Campbell, maybe. It just kind of goes to show and gives you a perspective of and of course, Azeez Al-Shaair, they did just sign from the San Francisco 49ers. But again, he's one of those younger, cheaper guys on the deal that they got, knowing that, if he shows out, he could be a long-term player here. But he's still one of those prove-it level players that didn't get one of those long-term contracts. He's definitely going to have to earn his way here. So it just kind of puts into perspective of really where the Tennessee Titans are, because I keep hearing this narrative like, oh, well, the team wasn't that bad. It was injuries last year. It was this, that, and the other. But look at the amount of players that they cut. Like, yeah, those players had injury issues or stuff in that, but they were still pretty solid players, right? This kind of sets and sinks into reality of what direction this team is going, and that it is likely with the news that they've been shopping at Derrick Henry. They haven't really fully committed to Ryan Tannehill. They have asked Kevin Byard to take a pay cut. We still don't know if they're going to pay Jeffrey Simmons or if they have the funds to do it. This is kind of setting in stone with all of these narratives and everything that we've seen from this team in the offseason, that the rebuild it might already be here, Michelle.
Well, and Junnie, too, I think, we talk about the NFL. It's not very hard to quickly rebuild without fully blowing everything up.
Yes.
And the way this team is constructed right now, and some of the contracts we've discussed, whether it be Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, Kevin Byard. I mean, the reason Kevin Byard's cap hit right now is so high is because they've restructured it so many times, which isn't his fault. It was they were in a window with John Robinson, and restructuring him allowed them to add guys like Julio Jones and Bud Dupree and Zach Cunningham to amp up this roster because they were in a go-for-it mode.
Definitely.
They were in their window. But, John Robinson gets fired. You don't re-sign A.J. Brown. You've seen what has happened to this roster. And although it might not be okay, we're just selling off everything, we're waving the white flag, because I don't believe you have to do that in the NFL. I think, you get a new general manager. You're making some smart moves right now to get some depth at linebacker. They need to work on the receiving core. We've seen what they've done with the offensive line in this last couple of weeks, but I believe that if they decided to draft a quarterback in this year's draft, they were allowed the quarterback to develop behind Ryan Tannehill and address some of the other positions, whether that be still in free agency, whether that be in the draft, and then you have a year of maybe a 500 year, maybe you're 8-9, maybe you're 7-10, but then if you believe your guy is in this year's draft and you can do that for a year and then continue to build that roster through free agency next year and through the draft next year, you're in a completely different situation and you could be one of the top teams in the AFC again. But I truly believe if the Tennessee Titans believe their quarterback is in this year's draft, you go and get it. Quarterback is the position that every single year you need to be evaluating that position. Just because Mike Vrabel and Tim Kelly went to Kentucky's pro day, I'm not saying they're going to draft Will Levis, but if you go there, you do your homework, and you believe that he can be your franchise guy, or you believe that C.J. Stroud can be your franchise guy, I don't think they'd be able to get him, because I think giving off draft picks that's what you need right now when you take a look at this organization. But if you believe a Will Levis is your guy and he can be a franchise quarterback and he's available at number 11th overall, I mean, you go get him. Quarterback is the position. It is the one position that can allow you to be in a Super Bowl window every single year. Joe Burrow had the comment this year during the playoffs, and he said, I'm going to be in a Super Bowl window my entire career. But he's right, Junnie.
Yeah, no,
When you find your guy, that is what it allows your team to be in that Super Bowl window. I don't get paid to evaluate quarterbacks. I know what Will Levis was this past year, and it wasn't good. But you mentioned earlier, just because you have a bad year in college football does not equal bust in the NFL.
Yeah.
Does not. The two are not comparable.
And no one's taking those things into consideration. No one's taking his injury, losing his offensive coordinator, losing Wan'Dale Robinson, losing two of his offensive linemen to the draft. There was so much turnover. There was so much awful offensive line play, and he played through injury this past season. I look at what he did the year prior with just a little bit of talent. It wasn't like Kentucky had a stacked roster compared to other SEC teams, and yet they were still a 10-win team and probably had one of the best years in Kentucky football history. So, and bottom line, Will Levis is the best quarterback to play for the University of Kentucky in the last 20 years. Like, flat out. Kentucky has had decent teams throughout the last 20 years. Here and there, it's been spotty, but the one thing that has, kept them back has been the quarterback position, and they had that, and they had a great season, lost a lot of talent, new system and everything, dealing with injury. That has to amount to something. And I just think with the traits that Will Levis has, if the Titans think that they can do something with that, draft him, let him sit behind Tannehill. This isn't reaching for a guy just to see what he's got like Malik Willis. This guy is an NFL-level prospect with really good intangibles that it takes to be an elite quarterback in this league.
When we take a look at this roster, there are multiple different position groups that need to be added to and need significant additions, Junnie. Two of them being on the offense, the wide receiver group and the tight end group. We'll discuss some of the options the Tennessee Titans have coming up on the other side of Michelle and Junnie on 102.5, 106.3 in the Game Nashville app.
Every day we are live and local.
Most people pick them to make the playoffs before the season even started.
And your source for Nashville sports.
He can still wait for 5 more games before he makes that decision.
We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It's baseball time in Hit City. The Nashville Sounds take the field Friday, March 31st for opening weekend against the Louisville Bats. Enjoy Friday fireworks, live music Saturday, and kids round the bases on Sunday. Grab your tickets today at NashvilleSounds.com.
Hey, it's Jared. Are you looking to move? If so, do yourself a favor and reach out to my friends at TriStar Moving. You can be assured your move will be stress-free because they've got new utility vans to help with pack jobs to separate your high-value or fragile items from the bulk of your furniture, and their movers are carefully picked and highly trained. No one in the game is doing this. TriStar Moving is raising the standard in the moving industry. When you're ready to move, give them a call. TriStar Moving, 615-640-1219, or online at nationalmoving.org/radio, and tell them Jared Stillman referred you for 10% off. That's TriStar Moving.
It's the Electronic Express Famous Half Price Fair. This week only, save up to 50% in every department, including all 4K TVs, appliances, laptops and tablets, speakers, and more. You'll not find a lower price anywhere. We guarantee it. The Famous Half Price Fair. It's first come, first served. Sale ends Saturday at 9 p.m. Hurry into any of our convenient locations. Plus, get up to 3 years free financing. The Electronic Express Famous Half Price Fair ends this Saturday at 9 p.m.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Teron Davenport here from Superbook Sports. Make 2023 the year you beat Vegas. Superbook Sports gives you the chance every week to go head-to-head with the best odds makers in Las Vegas. No fancy computer algorithms, no guys across the pond setting lines for American sports. Just the best team of odds makers in the business behind the counter at the Superbook in Las Vegas. Plus, Superbook features some of the best odds boosts and promo bets anywhere. So download the Superbook Sports app or visit superbook.com and start your battle against Vegas right now. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789.
Our diamonds are direct from the source, direct from the cutters. There's no middlemen, there's no markup.
Meet Ben Wilkes, 10-year jewelry professional at Genesis Diamonds.
We've got everything from half a carat all the way up to 15 carats and everything in between. So I never have to go looking for something.
And if you're in search of that one-of-a-kind designer ring,
lots of times they come in and she's got a very specific picture, something that she wants, and she's shocked and amazed when I go right to a case and pull exactly what she's been looking at out.
And beyond the best price and selection, every customer at Genesis gets one-on-one personal attention with no hidden agenda.
Every customer that I've ever worked with has my personal cell phone number. It doesn't come from an automated system. It is person-to-person interaction. We're not on commission, so what that means is regardless of what you buy or don't buy, I'm paid the same.
Genesis Diamonds.
Here you get more, you get bigger, better, you get prettier. The quality, the selection, transparency, customer service, it can't be touched. It's unmatched.
Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Later today. Your Nashville Predators honor Pecorine by unveiling his statue.
Love these guys, love my teammates, love this city, and love the fans.
Then take on the Seattle Kraken. Coverage begins at noon on your home for Smashville. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. This is Michelle and Junie.
Really? That's fantastic.
Presented by Superbook Sports on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and on the Game Nashville app.
Happy Saturday, Nashville. Welcome into Michelle and Junie. Michelle Knezovic, Junie Riddle. We are live until noon today. Then we will hand the reins off to Max Hers. He will have pregame starting at noon. And then Preds puck drop at 1 p.m. Live from Bridgestone Arena. Nick Frazier with us as well. He is live from our Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Game Studios. If you want to watch our beautiful faces streaming on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook every day, our stream is presented by Superbook Sportsbook. The Pecorine statue has officially been unveiled out in front of Bridgestone Arena. The plaza was packed for Pekka. There were people all on Broadway, some people on Tootsie's rooftop looking over. Looked like a pretty amazing scene out front of Bridgestone. And throughout the show, we're just asking Predators fans to let us know what your favorite Pecorine story is. This is a very exciting day for the franchise, for the organization. So Text us, call us 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Our phone and text line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. But Junnie, sticking with the Tennessee Titans, and we talked about this in the last segment of Mike Clay put something out. Mike Clay of the NFL put something out, kind of like a chart, I guess you could say, and we tweeted it out, our 1025 the game Twitter account. But essentially this chart goes down and categorizes every position and every team in the NFL and gives them a score out of a 4.0. The Tennessee Titans right now are in the bottom 5 rating every single position group. And I look at some of the lowest position groups being their offensive line and their wide receiver core. The offensive line, we've seen them make changes with Andre Dillard and Brunskill from the 49ers, but there's still an unknown. It's a safe bet, and I think that it definitely will be better than last year's offensive line, but there still is a question mark with offensive line because is Aaron Brewer going to be your center? I would assume because of the $4 million tender they put on him that Aaron Brewer will be your center. I'm assuming Nicholas Petit-Frere will be your right tackle, Andre Dillard will be your left tackle, and then Brunskill will be one of your guards. When you take a look at the draft, I think that you still have to draft a left tackle or a right tackle for the future and somebody who can play guard for you.
See, I think guard is more of a critical position right now. You went out and got Andre Dillard kind of on a prove-it deal. You don't just want to sign this guy and then put him on the bench. I think they really do kind of want to see what they have in him because if you can find a guy that has first-round talent, first-round intangibles, really athletic, really long, he's got the frame for a starting left tackle in the league. He just went to Philadelphia, which if you look at the Eagles on this chart and you see where their rankings are, they're the number 1 team based off position groups, and their offensive line is a perfect 4.0.
I was just going to say, do they have a 4.0?
So is it that Dillard was just a part of a really talented O-line and he just didn't get his opportunity, and now he can kind of showcase that in Tennessee? So I see more or less what they do in this draft is trying to help fill out this roster because there's still so many needs that they have to get. You know, number one, like they need help in their defensive back core. They probably should go out and get a corner. You need at least 2 more tight ends, which one of them I think that they're going to end up signing. Probably, I just have a feeling they're going to sign Jeff Swain back. I have no connections or sources on that. I have a feeling they're going to bring him back. Then you want to draft a guy with some upside. So you're going to want to draft guard, corner, tight end, probably a linebacker, maybe an edge rusher as well. But left tackle, I more or less, especially if they were to go the route of the quarterback this year and keep Tannehill and kind of use this as a year for that rookie to sit and learn under him. I think going out and trying to draft and get high-level offensive linemen would come in the following draft. This year, I just don't see a move that the Titans can make in order to turn the tide and be a better team than they were last year. I just don't see this team being better this upcoming season than they were last year. Injuries had a part to do with the derailment. They were 7-3. Almost a lock to make the playoffs, and then the worst collapse that you could have possibly imagined happened. And even though, yes, you got rid of those veterans, part of the reason you slipped up that much was because those veterans got injured. You know, just because you cut them because you don't want to pay them all that money due to injury doesn't mean they weren't still good players that when they were on the field provided a big boost for you. So they're still going to feel that. And unless you hit on a bunch of these cheap free agents, this team is not going to be that good this year. So if they were to go the quarterback route with the 11th overall pick, assuming it would be like an Anthony Richardson or Will Levis, or even drafting a Hendon Hooker in the second round, that's also a possibility. Saving next year when you're still probably going to be in the bottom half of the draft to go out and solidify your offensive line after you go and get your quarterback and keeps you in position to get an elite level prospect, I think that's kind of where the Titans need to go. I wouldn't say left tackle right now is a necessity because I truly believe this team wants to evaluate Andre Dillard and what they got in him.
We've got a caller that wants to weigh in on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jason wants to weigh in on Will Levis. Morning, Jason. How we doing?
Good morning, guys. I don't know how old you are. If you remember a quarterback named Jeff George at Indianapolis, drafted back in the day, he was like Will Levis. All right, he had the big cannon for an arm. He had all the physical attributes, but he was an interception machine. So I think that Levis is pretty much Jeff George 2.0. And there's no way that I want Tennessee. And I'm a Kentucky fan. I live in Franklin. I'm a Kentucky fan, but I'm a Tennessee fan. I want the Titans to stay away from Levis because he is Jeff George 2.0.
How would you feel about a Hendon Hooker before you leave?
Hey, he's more athletic. I think there's more upside to him. I think guys like Levis kind of, George had a lot of moxie too. I think their moxie gets in their way. I think they don't learn. They won't put in the hours because they just got, a little too much swagger. So I think there's more upside to Hooker myself.
Okay. Thanks for the call, Jason. So, thoughts first.
Okay. I mean, I get it. I get it. The narrative around Will Levis is a turnover machine. But with that being said, I mean, a lot of people are not accounting, and I think, our guest Jack Pilgrim earlier highlighted this as well. Tip balls, drop passes by the receiver that winds up leading to interceptions are also accounted for. And then also his fumble turnovers as well. I mean, poor offensive line play. I just think that the intangibles around him had something to do with it. And I also think that if he were to get drafted to the Titans, being a run-first team is the best friend to any rookie quarterback. And if Derrick Henry's still playing at an elite level by the time that the rookie that they have come in is going to be the starter, then I think that that's going to be a huge boost in kind of slowing down the pressure and the added weight of being the guy that has to go out there and produce in order for this offense to get moving. If you're a young quarterback and you have an all-time running back like Derrick Henry still, in that 1,300 yard range and still a consistent presence out there, that's going to help them develop to where not everything is lying on their shoulders.
Well, and his comment to Hendon Hooker, I think, still the question mark with him is he's coming off the ACL injury.
Yeah.
Right? And Rand Carthon coming in, that was one of the biggest things he said is that we do not want to try and draft guys who are injured, point blank. And I know if they were to draft Hendon Hooker in the second round, then he wouldn't have to play this year. It still could be Ryan Tannehill, and he could use this year to develop and be in the system. And Hendon Hooker, just based off covering this Tennessee Volunteers team, I don't know as much about Will Levis, but Hendon Hooker was, people loved him in the locker room. He was a true leader. He was out there at the Senior Bowl participating in some of the drills, even though he was on crutches and still recovering from that ACL injury. So, I think when you look at the two, what would you tell people, Junnie, on why Will Levis is regarded so much higher than a guy like Hendon Hooker in the draft? Based off of, I think a lot of people look at their senior years with Tennessee and with Kentucky and think, okay, Hendon Hooker at one point in the college football season was a Heisman candidate, was the favorite for the Heisman. And then, whereas Will Levis, his draft stock looked very high, but the turnovers, the interceptions, and I get the argument of, well, if you're a great quarterback, you have to be able to overcome that. I get that. I really do get that. But when you look at the offensive line play, Jack Pilgrim came on, which I thought was pretty surprising. He said, point blank, Will did not trust his offensive line. He did not trust his offensive coordinator. And he had freshman wide receivers out there to throw to.
Yeah, so
whereas
back to your question about, Hendon Hooker and why Will Levis is kind of unanimously put in front of him when it comes to this whole, draft prospect rankings and such. Will, when you're talking about a guy and what he did in college, how many Heismans have we seen fizzle out in the NFL, or just not make it in general. I mean, it's every year. Baker Mayfield, Johnny Manziel, Kyler Murray's kind of on the downspin right now because it seems like he can't get his head on straight to put in the mental aspect of the game. I look at a guy like Hendon Hooker, and your comment about his leadership and what kind of quarterback he is. He's a good locker room guy. I agree with all of this. But let's not forget that he's over the age of 25. He's an older quarterback that really found his groove later on. And when you look at Tennessee's roster, their right tackle, is going to be a first-round pick. They have other, linemen on their O-line that's going to get drafted as well. You're talking about 3 or 4 wide receivers on their team right now, that 2 of which are going to get drafted this year, and 2 more might get drafted next year. You're talking about Josh Heupel, who is now regarded as one of the best young offensive minds now that he's come in and taken over at Tennessee. I look at the scheme onto which Tennessee plays and the air raid offense and how that impacts a quarterback's numbers compared to a Will Levis, where he doesn't trust his O-line, where Hendon Hooker didn't have to worry about that. He didn't trust his wide receivers, where Hendon Hooker didn't have to worry about that.
Yeah, all day back there sometimes.
He didn't trust his OC, like not the way that Hendon Hooker has one of the best young offensive minds in all of college football. We've seen this historically. We've seen quarterbacks that have it all in college. The guys that went to the Ohio States, that went to the Alabamas, that went to these big-time major schools that fizzle out in the NFL because they're so used to having way better talent than the team that they're playing against. And when you go to the NFL and you get drafted to a team that doesn't have the best roster, it's hard for these guys to translate. I look at a guy like Will Levis and all the adversity that he had to overcome, and he still has shown that he has the metrics and the intangibles to be a winner, to be a leader, and has the traits that it takes to be an NFL franchise quarterback. That is the difference for me.
Junnie, very passionate, a Louisville fan, very high on Will Levis. Let us know your thoughts. How would you feel if the Tennessee Titans decided to use their 11th overall pick and draft a guy like Will Levis? Text us, call us 615-737-1025. And also, we want to hear all your Pecorine stories on the text line as well. We'll be reading them all show long. We've got you covered up until noon today, and then we'll hand the reins over to Max Hurds for the Preds pregame show, puck drop at 1 p.m. You're listening to Michelle and Junnie on 102.5, 106.3 in the Game Nashville app.
The sports talk doesn't end on Friday. Join Michelle Knezovic and Junnie Riddle for Michelle and Junnie.
As long as he wants to coach there, he will be able to coach there.
I think that really did save the hope of this team.
Michelle and Junnie, presented by Superbook Sports, every Saturday morning at 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Imagine yourself in a new Toyota, like Corolla Cross, the first ever Corolla SUV, or the best-selling Toyota Camry, now available with all-wheel drive. And you can get 3.99 APR financing on a new 23 Camry, now through April 4th. With approved credit through TFS, excludes TRD and hybrids. And every new Toyota comes with 2 years no-cost maintenance. Get complete details at buyatoyota.com. Ready, set, go get your Toyota today. Toyota, let's go places.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Hey, Willie Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days. And a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. It's that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Hey, it's John Tesh. Let me give you a little advice when shopping for auto and home insurance. All those insurance company ads use cute and funny characters for one reason: to distract you from realizing you're only getting one option, since that's all they offer. And all those average savings are just hype since they never tell you how many people they actually helped, so you end up wasting time getting one quote at a time, hoping to be one of those lucky people. Well, not at Xander Insurance. They have built a system like no other. Xander shops over 24 top-rated companies to find you the best rate. Best of all, they keep reviewing your coverage every year to make sure your rates stay competitive. Nobody else does that. Call 800-356-1780 or compare online at Xander.com and find out why Xander clients stay with them year after year. It's just the smarter way to compare and save. No cute and funny characters needed. That's 800-356-1780 or visit Xander.com.
When you want live and local,
If they were just better at the offensive line.
You can be a contender in the AFC again.
they've had more winning seasons than not. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game has you covered. Looking for some national programming?
Why do I want to get a running back like that 5 more years?
The AFC now is so deep at quarterback.
Check out 94.9 The Fan. Nashville's home for all things sports is 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and 94.9 The Fan. This is Michelle and Junnie.
Well, thank you so much.
Presented by Superbook Sports on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and on the Game Nashville app.
Welcome into Michelle and Junnie. Michelle Knezovic, Junnie Riddle. We are live from Bridgestone Arena right now. The arena is starting to fill up. The Pecorine statue has officially been unveiled. Max Hers came in to say it was just phenomenal. At noon on the pregame show, he will have Scott Wise, the guy who created this Pecorine statue, join him. He is out of Clarksville and also a Predator season ticket holder. So the statue is officially unveiled. You can see a lot of pictures and videos on Twitter right now. The plaza was, in fact, packed for Pecorine, Junnie. And like we've mentioned, all show long, we're taking your favorite stories, your favorite Pekka moments on our phone and text line, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Discussing the Tennessee Titans right now. We're going to reset the conversation about Will Levis. And what would the fan base's temperature be if Rand Carthon, in his first year, decides to use their 11th overall pick on a quarterback, specifically Will Levis, and I'll throw Anthony Richardson in there too. What would the temperature be from this fan base? Would you rather a guy who's an athletic, off-the-chart, pro day king, I guess you could say, kind of that crown at the NFL Combine, or a guy like Will Levis who some may look at him and think he can be the ceiling of Josh Allen, or he could be a complete bust in the NFL? I think those two would probably be the most polarizing guys in the draft this year, just because they're such big question marks. And after having an NFL draft last year where there was only really one guy who was ready to be an NFL quarterback, and Kenny Pickett, who's with the Steelers now, and the other guys that were talked about that could potentially go in the first round, like a Desmond Ridder, a Matt Corral, a Malik Willis, they all dropped significantly to the third round. So, this year, it's clear that there are a lot of teams in the top 10 who are looking to get their quarterback, right? We talk about two within the Tennessee Titans division, and the Texans and the Colts. You have the Panthers trade up the number 1 overall pick. They're going to draft a quarterback. The Texans at 2 are going to draft a quarterback. Arizona at 3, that's a spot open where they've made it clear they have Kyler Murray. They don't need to draft the quarterback, so I could see a team trying to trade up there. Then you've got the Colts at 4, or the Seahawks at 4 and the Colts at 5. One of them. They're 4 and 5. But, you talk about just in the top 10 how many teams could be trying to reset that quarterback clock. Do you think it is time for the Tennessee Titans to draft their quarterback of the future, have him sit a year under Ryan Tannehill, similar to what Patrick Mahomes did in Kansas City, a year just to, transition into the NFL? It's a huge change. It becomes your entire life. What do you feel, Tennessee Titans fans? 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. We had a texter on the text line earlier say, I need to find the text quick. Thoughts on trading back with a team like the team like the Jets and try to pick up a Hooker and a Hyatt to try to recreate that Burrow-Chase combo. That's been something that we've been seeing in the NFL is, guys trying to get the receiver they played with in college. And, I mean, Joe Burrow was very, very high on Jamar Chase, especially after Jamar Chase didn't play his senior year. I mean, it clearly worked out for those two. I think they're a rare combination because Joe Burrow is a franchise guy, a generational, was the clear number 1 overall pick, and Jamar Chase as well. So, you look at that, and, I mean, I'm not opposed to that. You and I actually have talked about, an option of if the Tennessee Titans are maybe higher on a guy like a Hendon Hooker, trying to trade out of that 11th overall spot and collect some more picks to maybe a team like the Jets who are in a go-for-it mode, or a team, who's looking to get a high-level offensive lineman or even a quarterback, Junnie.
So here's what I'll say about that. If the Titans trade back, then they need to get a position of need, in my opinion. I say if they trade back, you go out and get a guy like a Jordan Addison, a wide receiver out of USC, was the wide receiver of the year in college football the year prior when he played at Pitt. I think a guy like that could be somebody if they wanted to trade back. The whole getting Hendon Hooker and Jalen Hyatt, I mean, I just feel like that's the Vols fan and some of these Titans fans that would like to see that happen in particular. I don't necessarily know if Jalen Hyatt's game is going to translate into the NFL. I could be wrong, but he didn't really show a lot of versatility on his route running ability this past year. A lot of his touchdowns were kind of him schematically getting open. It's just something that really interests me is the product of Hendon Hooker and Jalen Hyatt and this Tennessee offense a product of Heupel putting them in the right situation in a friendly air raid offense that just that just inflates the statistics of the quarterback and the receivers on those teams. That's just what I want to know, because when I see a guy like Hendon Hooker, the first quarterback in the NFL that comes to mind to me is Teddy Bridgewater. A guy that is serviceable, he's accurate, the arm talent isn't super elite, the mobility isn't super elite. He's got, solid traits to him. There's just nothing that pops off the page to me about a Malik Hooker. I feel like Malik Hooker can be a guy that can be a backup, a bridge quarterback, a guy that can be in the league for a long time and just be one of those consistent presence. But when it comes to drafting quarterbacks, I can't emphasize this enough. You need to look at those elite traits and feel confident enough that you can bring the best out of a quarterback that has those traits and be able to implement them on the field to get a superstar level talent. For me, I just don't see that in Hooker. And when it comes to Jalen Hyatt, I'm just not necessarily sold that he is an elite NFL caliber receiver. I think if you put him into a wide receiver room with other guys and put him as a 2 or a 3 that you can kind of
a speedy
scheme
slot
around.
guy?
Yeah, like a guy that doesn't get all the attention by the defense and he can kind of slip through the cracks and make a big play here and there. I see him as that kind of guy, not a guy that's going to be that elite number 1 overall receiver that's going to consistently make big-time plays.
And we're going to take a look at the quarterbacks in the draft coming up, starting hour number 3 of Michelle Junnie. Who has the highest rating that the Tennessee Titans would be able to get in the draft? I'm throwing off the board C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young. Those two are going to go 1 and 2 in the draft, and I can feel pretty confident in saying that. But what do the quarterbacks look like that the Tennessee Titans might actually have a chance of drafting? Coming up next on hour number 3 of Michelle and Junnie on 102.5, 106.3 in the Game Nashville app.
White 85! Every team needs a quarterback. White 85! That's why we have
Hasselbeck, bootleg, rollout, toss, touchdown.
Tim.
You can run good plays at the right time.
ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck gives his expertise on all things NFL.
You evaluate players, and then you're turning them over to the coaching staff.
Every Tuesday at noon.
At the right time.
With Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. Tim on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Interest rates are rising, but not at Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Replace your old unit fast before new regulations increase prices up to 20%. Get a new unit today at today's price and receive up to $1,500 off. Or get 18 months of no payments so the first payment is not until summer of 2024. At Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, all new systems come with a 10-year parts and labor warranty. Schedule your appointment now at springhillac.com. That's springhillac.com.
At Fisher Investments, our clients know we have their backs.
How do your clients know that?
Because Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, the highest standard for a financial advisor. It means we're there for our clients and always put their interests first.
So wait, you do it because you have to?
No, we do it because it's the right thing to do. Our clients trust us with their retirement savings, and we know how important that responsibility is. So we take the time to really get to know them.
Get to know them how?
We make sure we understand their unique goals, finances, health, family, and lifestyle so we can tailor their portfolio to their specific needs. Our goal is to help them achieve a comfortable retirement.
Sounds like a big responsibility. You must make big commissions then, right?
No, we don't sell commission-based products. We have one single transparent fee that's structured so we do better when our clients do better. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you are switching to us. Fisher Investments. Clearly different money management.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
All of us at Cromwell Media, who owns this radio station, are recognizing two special teammates this month. Andrea Kamer is celebrating her 16th year as our corporate business manager. It's no secret, Andrea is the glue that holds everything together around here. And we're saluting Caroline Fenton, one of our stellar co-hosts of the midday show on 102.5, 106.3 The Game, as she wraps up her second year with us. Andrea and Caroline, you are what makes this a special place to work. Want to join our team? Send us a note at together@cromwellmedia.com.
Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne.
Bobby and Rex Road. Chase and Michelle.
Caroline, Willie, D-Mace.
Company.
Nashville's best sports talk.
Crank it up.
102.5 and 106.3.
Cranks it, he scores. On both sides of the one big possession.
Touchdown, Middle Tennessee.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Discussing the big sports stories of the weekend. This is Michelle and Junie. With Michelle Knezovic and Junnie Riddle. Presented by Superbook Sports on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Michelle and Junie on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome in Michelle Knezovic, Junie Riddle with me. We are live from Barrel House at Bridgestone Arena. The Pecorine statue unveiling was very much a success. The plaza was packed for Pekka. There's so many pictures and videos on social media. The statue has officially been unveiled in front of Bridgestone Arena. Max Hers will join us at 11:15. We're going to hear from Pecorine in his speech up there, and Max said it was incredible. And also at noon on the pregame show, Scott Wise, the man who created the statue, will join Max. It's a 800 to 900 pound statue, about 11 feet tall. So pretty incredible at the front of Bridgestone Arena. That'll now sit there. Pekka forever a Predator. But we got a couple texts on the text line in regards to the Tennessee Titans and who they should draft, what they should do in this year's draft. Wes from Hermitage texts in and says, the people saying the Titans need Hooker and Hyatt are looking for the Burrow-Chase combo. And that's really ignorant, beyond ignorant. Just hold off, save the money, trade up and get a QB in next draft. You know who I'm talking about, Caleb Williams in all caps. I'm not going to say go suck for a season. I'm saying build, but cheaply, save money and splurge next season. And to his point right there, you're not blowing it all up. You're building cheaply, and I think that's something that we've seen right now with Rand Carthon. I mean, the talks about potentially shopping Derrick Henry to see what value he has around the league. That's Rand Carthon as a first-year GM talking to people, figuring out what are your top players on this team worth around the league. That's asking Kevin Byard, even though he means so much to this team, hey, would you be willing to take a pay cut? That's, cutting guys like Taylor Lewan, like Zach Cunningham, signing guys who are much cheaper, like Brunskill for your offensive line, and Azeez Al-Shaair, and making short-term cheap moves right now. Junnie, you've been pretty on board on, if you don't think your guys in this year's draft and you don't think that a Will Levis or a Hendon Hooker or Anthony Richardson would be a fit or could be your guy here in Tennessee, that you should just fill your positions now and be mediocre-ish next year, because you still have Tannehill, you still have Henry, you'll still win some games, but are you going to be an elite team in the AFC? No, you're not going to be. So what are your thoughts on not addressing quarterback this year, using your 11th overall pick to get a receiver or another need position?
Well, that's been my personal offseason plan all year long. I've seen the writing on the wall, and the more we, inch into the offseason, now that we've hit free agency, the draft is coming up, we're looking at how this roster is filling out, and you just compare it to the AFC. And, I've been wanting to do this with you. We haven't gotten to it yet, but it's just like when you match up the Titans compared to every single team in the AFC and how their rosters are and their quarterback situations and what trajectory that they're going, the Titans are one of the worst teams in the AFC right now. And I get it. They lost to the Bengals by 4 points last year. They were, one non-fumble call away in that final game in Week 18 in Jacksonville from making the playoffs with Josh Dobbs. But what people aren't understanding is the cuts that they've made are going to hurt this team. The guys that they've signed are likely not going to be difference makers. And with Henry getting a year older and Tannehill getting a year older, and your defense isn't going to be as good as it was last year without a guy like David Long Jr.
Mm-hmm.
I just see the writing on the wall that the Titans are going to have a bit of a disappointing season, and they need to start looking towards the future, which I think they are. Now, this year's draft, there's a lot of ifs and a lot of question marks and a lot of, I can see this happening. I can see Hendon Hooker breaking out. I can see Hendon Hooker being this. Will Levis, Anthony Richardson. We don't know what these guys exactly are going to be, but I'll tell you what. If the Titans want to hold their cards and save it for next year's quarterback class and then move off Tannehill after this offseason and transition into a new offensive core, next year's quarterback class is legit. And I think there are going to be other names that pop up in the draft conversation. But right now, when you talk about Caleb Williams and Drake May being your headliners at the quarterback position, those are going to be two studs that come into the league. Caleb Williams just has that playmaking, athletic ability, everything that you want in a modern-day quarterback. people are already kind of comparing him to Patrick Mahomes. Unfair comparison, obviously, but the guy has that talent. He has that frame. He has the size. He has the speed. He has the accuracy, the touch, the poise. He has everything that you want, and he's playing in Lincoln Riley's offense, and we've seen Lincoln Riley put a lot of quarterbacks into the league. And then Drake May, a guy that a lot of people don't mention, but the thing about him is he's mobile as well. He's tall. He's long. He's 6'5". He's super accurate, and once he hits his stride in the field when he decides to run, the guy is everything you want in a modern quarterback. So I look at those two compared to this year's draft, and I would say the Titans would be better off saving it and trying to, vamp up their roster as much as possible this year. But there are going to be some legit guys, and not even to mention you got Spencer Rattler pulled up. I'm super high on Shadur Sanders now that he's going to be playing in Colorado, there's going to be other quarterbacks as well that are going to show out and be in that conversation for the Titans to be looking at next year if they do not elect to go and draft a quarterback this year.
Well, Junnie, I think you laid it out really nicely. A senior year obviously is going to how they play and how they perform. I mean, I remember last year going into the year, it was Caleb Williams Heisman, or not Caleb Williams, I'm sorry. It was C.J. Stroud's Heisman to win going into the year, and he was fine. I mean, in the Michigan game, I think that was his Heisman moment, and he wasn't able to rise to the moment. And we're going to see that this year. I mean, Drake May, Caleb Williams, right? They're going to be the favorites heading into this season. But, not talking about those two, because I could probably guarantee that they will be, 1 and 2 in the draft because they're already regarded so highly. But I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I look at a guy like Spencer Rattler, and, he was one of the top quarterbacks coming out of high school. He goes to Oklahoma, and then in South Carolina last year, say what you want about the Tennessee-South Carolina game, but that guy balled. He balled all over them, and I'm really, interested to see what he will look like this year. Another year with Shane Beamer. I mean, they have that program inconsistent early, and I know people will joke and laugh, but I have a feeling that they'll be in the East, one of like the third best teams in the East in the SEC.
Well, I think Tennessee will still be up there. Georgia,
Georgia, Tennessee, and South Carolina is kind of
potentially, yeah. I mean, potentially. Rattler, I just think he has a lot of inconsistencies. He torched Tennessee, yeah. I mean, he had a career day, but I mean, Anthony Richardson torched that secondary. And again, a lot of people are hyping him up nowadays, but what quarterback didn't really have a good day against Tennessee's secondary?
Will Levis.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. He did have a bummer, but that's a night game at Neyland. A little bit different than playing on the road and such. But yeah, just there are options on the table for next year's draft. I think if they were to trade back and go out and get a guy like Jordan Addison or Jalen Hyatt or Jackson Smith and Jigba, which is Ohio State product that Mike Vrabel just went and saw at their pro day earlier this week. You go out and get another receiver like that, trade back, get another first-round pick for next year, and even if you are mediocre and you're not in that upper echelon of picks, you're still able to use that draft capital and those assets to be able to move up and go get your guy in the 24 draft. So, the options are endless. And I don't think the Titans need to rush this process. If you don't believe in a guy this year, flat out, don't go get one. There will be guys next year. But plain and simple, they're just in that process, and fans need to realize that, and that once they do draft that quarterback, then the expectation should return, and knowing that with a quarterback on a rookie deal, that is your window to go out and win.
The NFL draft is almost exactly a month from today, April 27th. So we've got a whole nother month of talking about the ifs, the ands, the mock drafts, all of it, all of the options for the Tennessee Titans. Coming up next, Max Hers is going to join us. We're going to hear from Pekka Rinne, who spoke this morning after his statue was unveiled. They've got the Seattle Kraken again today, puck drop at 1 p.m. How much does this game matter as far as playoff implications? We'll discuss it all on the other side of Michelle and Junnie on 102.5, 106.3 in the Game Nashville app.
Want the latest on college football and Nashville sports?
They can be a fully formed model of what they're going to be offensively moving forward.
Join Outkick 360's Chad Withrow every Friday at 5 with Stillman and Company.
You don't know what's going to happen with the roster or the team.
He'll bring opinions and charisma for a full half hour every week.
This is a good lesson about sports and what we think and what actually happens.
Chad Withrow on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Get a great deal on one of the most versatile tractors in the industry, the Kubota BX, which is part of Kubota's tractor lineup rated #1 in durability and owner experience. Stop by Krebs Kubota today and bring home select BX series equipment for 0 down, 0% APR for up to 72 months, plus save up to $800. Now through June 30th, see Krebs Kubota or go to KubotaUSA.com for more details. Krebs Kubota, Middle Tennessee's preferred equipment dealer. Columbia, Franklin, and Murfreesboro. Online at KrebsKubota.com.
Men, this is Evan Bass with the Tennessee Men's Clinic, and I've been helping men with sexual health issues for many years. I've seen the pain and anxiety that men walk into the clinic with when erectile dysfunction is affecting them. And I also know the heartache and difficulty it can bring to their partner. At the Tennessee Men's Clinic, we've been successfully treating men for ED for many years now. We've seen the amazing impacts that those treatments have on a man's confidence and positivity. And we've seen the wonderful things those treatments also do for a man's relationship. That's why I'm pleased to announce that we are now offering the same great services we offer at our Nashville clinic at our new location in Franklin, which will make it much more convenient for those men living south of Nashville to get treated. So call us today and book your appointment at our Midtown location or at our new clinic in Cool Springs. Your first visit is only $99 and includes blood work and a medical consult. Call 615-208-9090. That's 615-208-9090 or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com.
Visit our website to learn more, including side effects. Treatment sex start results vary.
Did you know that over 90% of male enhancement pills are virtually the same thing that's repackaged, redone over and over again? Why settle for the same old product when you can get something completely different? Something that takes male enhancement into the 21st century. Something that really works. Men, you need to try Noxitril, the explosive, all-natural male enhancement formula that will unlock your performance in the bedroom to a level you could only dream of. Try to imagine Viagra on steroids. Noxitril is so powerful, that's why it took years for it to finally become available to the public without a prescription. So call now and take advantage of our special Noxitril free bottle offer today. Oh yeah, we recommend that you use the Noxitril dose as directed. Think of your partner. We certainly don't want you to overperform in the bedroom.
Call now and find out how to get a free bottle of Noxitril while supplies last. Call 800-993-2150, 800-993-2150. Free bottles for limited time, so call now, 800-993-2150, 800-993-2150.
We try to stay cool by being on social media.
I'm with it. I'm hip.
Follow us on Twitter at 1025thegame and on Instagram at 1025thegame Nashville.
Hey!
Oh yeah, and like us on Facebook too. This is Michelle and Junie.
Really? That's fantastic.
Presented by Superbook Sports on 1025 and 1063 The Game and on the Game Nashville app.
It's an unbelievable honor, and that the statue felt like, oh, come on, it's too much. I mean, there's in the city of Nashville, there's so many icons from like pop culture and sports and different sports, and just to have it makes you feel small. You're like, oh, like me? Like you wanna put a statue of me? But I mean, that was my reaction at first, but now it is unbelievable.
That was Pekka Rinne earlier this morning speaking as his statue was unveiled on the Plaza of Bridgestone. Welcome back into Michelle and Junie. Michelle Knesvik, Junie Riddle. We've got Max Hers with us, who will host pregame starting at noon. He also will be joined with Scott Wise, who was the creator of this statue. And Max, you were down there. The plaza was packed. I got here at about 8:45, driving around. Streets were closed. I mean, people were on the rooftop of Tootsie's. What was just the scene like? Set the scene for us, because I'm a little jealous I had to watch it on the live stream up here.
It was unbelievable. It was perfect. The weather was perfect. It was 60s and sunny. There was a little bit of wind, which kind of made everybody's hair look a little bit nicer. It was a huge crowd. It was unbelievable, and it felt like a gathering of the biggest, most loyal, and longest-term Preds fans. And that's exactly what it should have been. It was amazing. I don't really have a head count of how many people there were, just because the crowd went deep in every direction.
Yeah.
And I was lucky to be kind of in the middle of it all, but I couldn't see the full 360 because I'm not very tall. But it was perfect. The statue is unbelievable. It is so, so good. It is from Pekka's final lap around the arena after his final NHL game, which at the time we didn't know for sure if it would be in May 2021, but it was. And he's got his helmet off, so you see his full face, but he's in the full goalie gear, raising his stick. I think they picked the perfect moment because, I mean, you could pick something from the playoffs or from the goalie goal, but he had his helmet on in those moments. So I think this is the full salute, and it's just amazing to see the past, present, and future of the Preds all together in one place. So many current and former players and coaches were out there. Both of Pekka's goalie coaches. Barry Trotz, of course, is here with David Poyle and all of the current brass. and former Preds were out there. It was amazing. And Pekka was, as Pekka always is, he was funny, he raised the moment, he met the moment, but he continued to make the moment not about him. And he had tons of family here, too.
Well, and, I mean, just hearing that sound clip of him, you can tell he was almost at a loss of words, right? I mean, when you're a part of these special sports moments and you hear people make speeches, and a lot of times you write out what you want to say and the people you want to thank, and because it's a huge moment, and you could tell there just from that specific clip. And you talk about how humble Pekka is. I mean, he was just like, me? I mean, me? A statue of me? And now he forever will have his, jersey hung up, but to another level of having a statue. And I think the support today just showed, I mean, he means so much to this fan base.
Yeah, and it's amazing to see how he's dealt with being the first person in team history to have those two things. Because we know there'll be more, whether it's 6 or 59 going up to the rafters, or even further down the road, some of the other guys who are currently on the roster. I mean, there will be other numbers retired, but it took them this long to get to the first, and they didn't rush it. They chose someone who was worthy, and there are going to be a whole lot more statues out there long term. And it's
a Max Hers statue will be right in the middle.
That one will be hundreds of years down the road, hopefully. But it's so amazing to see, like, I'm looking forward to asking Scott Wise about this when I interview him, the sculptor of the statue, to start the pregame show in about half an hour here. We go to all these other arenas and see venues in other sports, and teams already have 5-10 statues outside, and they kind of all follow the same motif. So to literally chisel the first stone here and pick what these are all going to look like, that's such a cool part of this. And the fans who are all here, like I said, are the most loyal Preds fans, and they all deserve to be a part of that moment, and I'm so glad they were. They helped set the pace for what this team and this fan base were going to be like, and now we're getting to do things that these full-on, grown-up, 25-year-old NHL teams get to do for the first time, and Pekka could not be more deserving and more gracious as the first person to go through those things.
So, Max, all day long we've been asking fans to text in, to call in, and let us know what your favorite Pekka moment has been. Now, you've been in the city a lot longer than Michelle and I have, and you've gotten more inside access than just about anybody. What was your favorite moment with Pekka Rinne? Whether it was on the ice, whether it was an encounter that you had with him, whether it was a moment, just with his charitable work that he does outside of the organization. What's something that you will take away from Pekka Rinne's time here in Smashville?
I think it's just the 2017 playoffs as a whole.
Yeah.
And I think depending on what exact state of mind I'm in, and I've thought about it a lot with this current Preds team and what they're going through right now between the trades and the injuries, to think about all the players who were injured along the way and for them to still get to the final and still be 2 wins away from the Stanley Cup and should have gotten that series to 7 if the whistles had gone the right way.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason they were able to do that is because of Pekka. And it's the same thing UC Saros is doing right now with this team. And I just wish Pekka had his name on the Stanley Cup to cement the fact that he got them all the way there.
Mm-hmm.
And if they had fewer injuries along the way, I think they certainly would have won that series. But it's that series as a whole and that playoff run that a player who was just kind of, I don't even want to say a victim of circumstance, but never just in the national, international, NHL limelight enough.
Mm-hmm.
He finally got his due from the hockey world as an amazing goaltender. And now I think because he got that, there's no Preds player who's being held back from getting those honors. Roman Josi has his Norris. UC Saros is respected as one of the 5 best goalies in the league, and I know he will win a Vezina at some point. And it's just another thing that Pekka did first. So that really sticks out in my mind. And just getting to interview him as well before his number was retired in February. And I had interned with the team when I was in college when Pekka was part of the roster. And I had never had a chance to interview him one-on-one. And I was fortunate to be able to be our station's representative to interview him in February before the number retirement. And I asked him a question that I'd always wanted to ask him, which was, in regards to all his charity work, when in his life did he realize that spending a minute with someone could be the best moment of that person's life, and especially for children who were sick? And he genuinely thought about it, and he said it was when he signed his first long-term contract here. He realized that he could have a real impact on people, and that every single time he didn't do that, he was missing an opportunity to do it.
Well, and I think that's so important too. You know, we talk about what he was able to do on the ice for the Nashville Predators, lead them to a Stanley Cup run, be the center and the face of this organization for a very, very long time. And some of the moments that we've had, you know, April in Portland, she's a huge Preds fan. She texts in all the time.
Shout out April.
She gave us an entire list, and I feel like this is these are the highlights. The sweep of the Blackhawks in the Stanley Cup run, his goalie goal, the retirement of his jersey. This is one that I love too. Him throwing the catfish and being the hype man at the Stadium Series game against Tampa. And, you know, just to throw out all of the charitable work he has done around the city of Nashville, the work he has done with, you know, some of these children who are experiencing something you never want to have experience in your entire life. And Janice texted in this morning. This was probably one of my favorites. She said her favorite Pekka moment was when he scored the goal, but she's a retired Vandy Children's Hospital pediatric oncology nurse. And she said she was just in awe of everything he's done to support our precious patients and many other charitable works in the community. I mean, he just means so much to this organization. And he's been working too, Max. You've been with the team more, and he's been working, you know, with the staff. What has it been like to kind of see him in that role with these guys? Because he played with a lot of them.
Yeah, and well, the crazy part is with the players who will be on the ice today, there are very few that he actually played with.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
of how many of the big names are missing. No Ryan Johansson, no Philip Forsberg, no Roman Josi, things like that. So they're missing the guys who are most closely connected to Pekka, but asking the younger players about him, and I asked Phil Tomasino this in an interview that I conducted yesterday, which you'll hear on the pregame show today. He got to be in training camps with Pekka. He was kind of around on the taxi squad in Pekka's final season, and he said, yeah, I never played with the guy, but the gravitas that he carries around and knowing what he did in the community here as a long-term member of this team, like Phil Tomasino wants to be, he is my role model in that regard more than anything.
And also just to kind of touch in on that, going forward, you know, Pekka obviously retired, and now he's kind of had some sort of role with the team. Do you kind of see that expanding a little bit and him getting more involved with the Nashville Predators? And also this, you know, this doesn't pertain to that question either, but what do the outside of the Predators organization and outside of Nashville and how they view Pekka Rinne, is he really kind of what defines what it means to be a Predator?
Yeah, it absolutely is. And that's just another trail that he's had the proud ability to blaze with this team. And we'll see what he does long term. I think he spent most of this hockey season in Europe, and I think a thing that kind of goes underthought about here is how famous he is in Europe, in all of Europe, and of course in Finland especially. But for someone like that, and Sean Henry emphasizes very well, as did David Poyle during their speeches outside before the statue was revealed, was this is just the 6th goalie in NHL history to have a statue outside the arena. He is the first European goalie to have a statue. And that is a big path where we've seen in the last 10 to 15 years more and more European goalies in the NHL, and so many of them look up to Pekka Rinne. And now many of them will look up to Jussi Saros and so many of the other European goalies we see come in and play against the Predators. So, I mean, look at the 2 goalies we have now, both 27-year-old Finnish guys. You know these guys love Pekka Rinne and watched him every chance they could get growing up. Jussi Saros and Kevin Lankinen did. So I think it'll be a multifaceted role for him, and I think the Preds have made it clear from the beginning he is going to get to choose what he wants to do. So I think no matter what he does, even if he's just a plain and simple ambassador and not involved with coaching or development, he will have a big impact on every aspect of the team and org.
Well, I think Philip Forsberg said it best on Instagram today. A picture of Pekka and his statues. 2 Pekkas are better than one. And that is what we will have moving forward. Pekka Rinne was a part of so many firsts for this Nashville Predators organization. You know, the first Stanley Cup run, the first jersey to be hanging up in the rafters, and the first statue out in front of Bridgestone Arena. Tell us what your first and favorite memory is of Pekka Rinne. Text us, call us 615-737-1025, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. But the Preds got a game today. And this holds a lot of playoff implications. The Seattle Kraken are in town. Puck drop at 1 p.m. Max will have pregame starting at noon. He'll also have Scott Wise, the sculptor of this statue, joining him at noon. We're going to talk a little hockey coming up next on Michelle and Junnie, 102.5, 106.3 in the Game Nashville app.
Every day we are live and local.
They played tough. They came back and they still lost.
And your source for Nashville sports.
Yes, you want to have a fire sale, but who's going to buy those players?
We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It's the Electronic Express famous half price fair. This week only, save up to 50% in every department, including all 4K TVs, appliances, laptops and tablets, speakers, and more. You'll not find a lower price anywhere. We guarantee it. The famous half price fair. It's first come, first served. Sale ends Saturday at 9 p.m. Hurry into any of our convenient locations. Plus, get up to 3 years free financing. The Electronic Express famous half price fair ends this Saturday at 9 p.m.
Hey, it's Chase McKay. Make 2023 the year you beat Vegas. Superbook Sports gives you the chance every week to go head-to-head with the best odds makers in Las Vegas. There's no fancy computer algorithms. There's no guys across the pond setting the lines for American sports. It's just the best team of odds makers in the biz right there behind the counter at the Superbook in Vegas. Plus, Superbook features some of the best odds, boosts, and promo bets you'll find anywhere. So download the Superbook Sports app or visit superbook.com and start your battle against Vegas right now. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789.
There's nobody on the planet who's as picky when it comes to diamonds as Genesis Diamonds owner Boaz Ramon.
I'm very, very selective on the diamond that I pick.
Indeed, Boaz will look at 2,000 diamonds on the world market and find maybe 2 or 3 that meet his criteria.
What most people don't know, and even jewelers, a diamond has much more than the 4 C's. He has maybe 20 C's.
Like the diamond's luster grade or brilliance level, its feathering, its inclusions, its table, its polish, its symmetry, even the diamond's own DNA or X-ray report, which most jewelers don't even know about.
I refuse to sell diamonds that don't go through our very, very strict criteria.
Which means a Genesis diamond is one she can be proud to wear, with the most sparkle and brilliance and real intrinsic value.
This is my goal, to go all over the world and find only the best hand-selected diamond.
Genesis Diamonds, setting the highest quality standards in the jewelry business. Green Hills and Cool Springs.
This week's Nashville's best deal is Eastside Bowl in Madison, a vintage bowling alley, music venue, diner, lounge, and arcade designed by locals for locals. And March 28th, don't miss the Battle of Nashville, Nashville's best Rage Against the Machine tribute band. Right now, you can get 2 hours of bowling plus shoe rentals for up to 6 people for just $45. That's 2 hours of bowling plus shoes for up to 6 people, just $45. Go to thegamenashville.com/deals to get yours now.
Hey, this is Roman Yossi, and this is Smashwell.
Going to the front of the net, he scores. What a gorgeous move. Roman Yossi.
You're listening to the flagship of the Nashville Predators radio network, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
This is Michelle and Junnie.
Well, thank you so much.
Presented by Superbook Sports on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and on the Game Nashville app.
Michelle and Junnie, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Michelle Knezovic, Junnie Riddle with us. We are live from the Barrel House in Bridgestone Arena. Just about 30 minutes until our pregame show with Max Hers. He will have Scott Wise, the sculptor of the Pekka Rinne statue, joining him at the top of the show. An incredible statue. I am looking forward to in about 30 minutes, Junnie, you and I getting to go outside and see it up close in person. All the pictures, all the videos look incredible. And I want to stand next to it to really get a full size, how big it is compared to me. But that's out front in Bridgestone Arena. We're asking you all show long. Text us, call us, 615-737-1025. Your favorite Pekka Rinne moment. I'll have mine. I'll tell my favorite Pekka Rinne moment. And I didn't have the pleasure of really covering him long my time here in Nashville, because my first day of work was Pekka Rinne's retirement. My first day of work at 102.5 The Game, I was shadowing Ryan Porth, who was producing our morning show and our program director, and we had July 13th. That was the day I was coming in. He told me, hey, get here at 5, and I get a text message the night before, and him saying, hey, we got a lot going on, and there's going to be a big announcement tomorrow morning. So just get here at about 5:30, and you're just going to be a sponge and soak up everything. And I'm like, what's the announcement? And he tells me that morning, Pekka Rinne is announcing his retirement at 8 a.m. Like, we got to be ready. And I went to the press conference, and although I might not have had a lot of encounterments with him, it just kind of, I feel like, encapsulates the time I started working at the game, and Pekka retiring, and then his last game, then his jersey retirement, and when he spoke, and now this, a year and a half of kind of honoring him. So it's been pretty awesome to hear everybody else's stories as well, Junnie. But the Predators have a huge game today here in Bridgestone Arena. They were able to get the overtime win on Thursday night over the Seattle Kraken 2-1, and they're back at it again this afternoon, just sitting right outside of a playoff spot, Junnie. We've talked about this team and the significant players that are injured right now and haven't been able to help this team as they fight for a playoff spot towards the end of the year. Philip Forsberg is still out. Roman Josi is out. UC Parsonen, 3 guys who played huge roles in getting this team to where they are right now, but the torch has been passed a little bit, and guys like Luke Evangelista and Philip Tomasino and Matt Duchene, they have really stepped up and allowed this team, Junnie, to still be in a race for a playoff spot.
No, I mean, you're 100% right. And for Preds fans, they have to be happy with where they are right now. I mean, think about the narrative at the beginning of the season when they go out and they get a Nino Niederreiter, and they go out and get a Ryan McDonough to really solidify the blue line. Mm-hmm. And then they come out and they start off really, really slow. And and all season long, the narrative is they need to sell, they need to trade off players, this team needs to go into a rebuild, this core has had its opportunity. And what do? Right around the trade deadline, they realize that their playoff odds and the way that they're playing is not winning hockey. They sell off. They get a ton of assets back. And now we can see some of these young prospects of Philip Tomasino that a lot of people were shocked that, was kept down in Milwaukee to start off this season. He's come up, and he's played very, very well. You want to talk about Luke Evangelista. He has 9 points in his first 12 career games, and the other night in Buffalo had 4 points, 2 goals, 2 assists in the second period. I mean, he's been a highlight. And Tommy Novak, in 39 games this year, 33 points, 14 goals, 19 assists. I mean, I think he's been one of the best centermen on this team all year long. And you're talking about doing this without a Ryan Johansson, or without a Philip Forsberg, without a Roman Josi here recently, and they're still fighting and they're still competing. So if I'm a Preds fan right now, I have zero expectations for this group, and I'm just enjoying the bright spots in the spark of offense that some of these young guys are bringing to this team, and just enjoying the development and watching these guys get their opportunities and grow so that in years to come they can start to develop and become more of a solidified playoff team once again.
So the Preds right now are sitting just a couple points behind a playoff spot. It's the Seattle Kraken, then Winnipeg, and then the Nashville Predators. When you take a look at this team and you take a look at the opponent they have today, the Seattle Kraken, their first for that wild card position, we talked about it before, Junnie. If they beat the Kraken today, they could have an opportunity to jump them. I know still 6 points behind, but if they get 2 wins over the Kraken, that is looking good for this Preds team. And when you talk about the expectations after the trade deadline, the expectations weren't to make the playoffs. The expectation was, okay, let's see what these young guns can do out there. Let's see how they can perform when they get the opportunity to play, first line minutes, when they get the opportunity to take on more of a role in this team. And I'm also interested to see when some of these guys do come back, like a UC Parsonen and Philip Forsberg, which John Hines did say earlier this week on our airwaves that they're not day-to-day anymore. So it makes me think that this is going to be a longer, drawn-out thing. But if they do make it into the playoffs, and what could those lineups look like? What could those lines look like when you have more options?
I'm so glad you brought this up, because I genuinely think this team got better after the trade deadline. I mean, look at the centermen on this team. You got Cody Glass, who's played really well. Tommy Novak, I've already touched on, has been probably the surprise of the year for this Nashville Predators team. Colton Sissons, and then you insert Yuso Parson. Those are 4 solid centermen right there. Tomasino would probably get bumped down when Forsberg comes back, so you would have Duchesne and Forsberg on the first line. You'd probably have Tomasino and Evangelista on the second line. Sherwood has been playing really well with his opportunity. I mean, you're just talking about a lot of guys. Getting a guy like Tyson Barrie, another offensive defenseman, to go along with Roman Josi in the second pairing there. The defense would be a lot more deeper if they were to get these guys back and somehow get into a playoff position. The one thing that's really prohibiting them from doing that is how tough this upcoming schedule for the Preds is. And when you look at the teams in front of them, the Seattle Kraken and the Winnipeg Jets are currently hold the 2 wild card spots. I mean, they got some cupcake schedules coming up for them. I mean, I'm looking at Seattle's in particular right now. Say the Preds cut it to a 4-point lead here in the wild card race. I mean, they got to go to Minnesota, which is going to be a tough game. But after that, they got the Ducks, the Kings, the Coyotes, the Canucks, the Coyotes again, the Blackhawks, another Coyotes game. And then they cap off the year playing Vegas twice. So a lot of those games are easy wins. Winnipeg is the same way. Winnipeg, they play the Kings, and they got the Sharks, the Red Wings, the Devils, the Flames, the Preds again, the Sharks, and then they cap off the season with Minnesota and Colorado. So you're talking about majority of these teams that Winnipeg and Seattle have are weaker opponents, and that's hard when you're looking at the Preds when they got to play Toronto, Boston, Pittsburgh, the Colorado Avalanche, Minnesota Wild, Carolina Hurricanes. Like, these are some of the premier teams. Dallas Stars. The schedules are night and day for the teams that they're competing against. So with all that being said, it's just super important for Preds fans to not get your hopes up about the playoffs. Enjoy watching these young guys thrive in the position that they've been thrown into, and really start to look toward next season when you get healthier, you mix in your veterans with this young talent, and see where you can go with an elite goaltender like UC Saros.
Well, and it's crazy, too, to see how the status, I guess you could say, and the vibe surrounding this Nashville Predators team has changed since the trade deadline.
Oh, yeah.
And just since the announcement of Barry Trotz taking over, and so many exciting things like these young forwards stepping up and putting up number. Luke Evangelista, 4 points in one game. I mean, the vibe and the temperature of the fan base has significantly changed because now they can see the way the Predators fan base is going. They know what the plan is. Willie Donick said it. What's the plan? What's the plan? They know what the plan is, and that has been pretty clear. So, when you talk about the experience that these young guys are getting and the ability to be playing starting minutes for this team, I mean, that's only going to help them, whether they sneak into the playoffs or not. And we talk about the Western Conference compared to the Eastern Conference. Western Conference is pretty wide open. We talk about the Eastern Conference and how many teams you have on that side of things, just so incredibly competitive. But when you look at the Western Conference, yeah, the Avalanche are the Avalanche, but I mean, it took them a little bit, overcoming injuries, to kind of get their stuff together. So I kind of compare it to the AFC and the NFC in the NFL, right? I mean, you look at the quarterback play in the NFC compared to the AFC, it's night and day. So this game today could put the Predators in a really, really good position. But I think when I'm watching this game, what I'm looking for more is, can these young guys just continue to step up day in and day out? They got the Leafs tomorrow. As you push towards the end of the season, can these young guys keep rising to the occasion and putting this team on their back? Coming up next, Junnie and I are going to put a bow on things today. You got pregame show with Max Hurst starting at noon. Junnie and I are going to take a look around the college basketball world, going to give you some of our picks of the day, some of the teams that we think are going to advance to the Final Four. You're listening to Michelle and Junnie on 102.5, 106.3 in the Game Nashville app.
Sometimes he gets lonely and needs some company.
10 for 17 for 45 yards in his career with 1 interception.
This is one of those years where it's a step back for them.
And that'll create more one-on-one situations and make it easier for him to throw the ball down the field.
It's Stillman and Company.
You've got real talent.
With Jared Stillman, weekdays from 2 to 6 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
There's never a good time for your furnace to go out, especially in the winter, but it's always a good time to call Lee Company. Our heating and air conditioning pros are available 24/7. No heat? Don't wait. Call Lee Company now at 615-567-1000. Our expert technicians will diagnose the issue and fix it right the first time. When you're cold, you need someone you can count on to bring the heat. Call Lee Company now at 615-567-1000 or visit leecompany.com.
Join the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce April 3rd through 6th for an exclusive look into what makes Nashville the IT city. Whether you're new to town or a Nashville native, Intro Nashville gives you the opportunity to become engaged and connected to our city's community. During this multi-day immersive program, you'll hear from over 20 community leaders and industry experts whose storytelling unlocks a comprehensive view of our city and region. Gain historical and economic perspective on Nashville while establishing relationships with local business leaders. Register now at intronash.com.
Hey, it's Mike from Newton Chevrolet GMC. Have you ever thought to yourself, buying a car online? That sounds like a nightmare. But fear not, my friends. With Newton FastPass, it's easier than catching a leprechaun. In fact, our system is so user-friendly that even a leprechaun can do it. And let me tell you, those little guys are notoriously bad with technology. Also, with Newton FastPass, you're practically guaranteed to get a great deal. It's like finding a 4-leaf clover in a field of overpriced cars. And who doesn't love a good deal? I mean, I'd be willing to bet that even the most skeptical among us would feel lucky to snag a great deal on a new car. That's not all. When you use Newton FastPass, we'll throw in a free leprechaun to help you navigate the process. And trust me, these little guys know their way around a car deal. Just be sure to keep an eye on them because they can be a little mischievous. So what are you waiting for? Visit NewtonChevroletGMC.com and join the ranks of lucky car buyers. You might even feel like you're living in your own personal pot of gold. And remember, with Newton FastPass, you're always in luck.
The Nashville Sounds are back in Hit City for baseball season. Join us at First Horizon Park, March 31st for opening day as the Sounds take on the Louisville Bats. Stick around for post-game fireworks Friday or family fun all weekend. Tickets are available now at NashvilleSounds.com.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game is live and local.
And now, let's meet the starting lineups.
Robbie and Rex Road 6 to 9.
You are talking about a team that's building a roster.
Chase and Michelle 9 to 11.
He's still under contract.
It's not always X's and O's.
Caroline, Willie, and D Mace 11 to 2.
Trades, free agents.
Let's get it going. I think this is a good hire.
And Stillman and Company 2 to 6.
I can give you one of the best coaches in the league.
And don't forget, we're your home for all things Nashville.
He scored!
Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. This is Michelle and Junie.
Really? That's fantastic.
Presented by Superbook Sports on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and on the Game Nashville app.
Final segment of the day on Michelle and Junie. Welcome in 102.5, 106.3 The Game. I'm Michelle Knezovic. Junie Riddle with me. We are live from Bridgestone Arena. The Predators will kick off in just about an hour. Max Hers will take over after us and have the pregame show. Scott Wise, who sculpted the Pecorine statue, will be joining him in the first segment. Very excited to go out there and take a look at the statue. If you're around Broadway or you're heading to the game today, you got to make sure to get a picture of it out front today. But Junie, our show's presented by Superbook Sports. We haven't talked a lot of college hoops today, and I'm ready to make some picks. You and I have been pretty good as far as making picks about this tournament, and we talk about the parity in college basketball. Look at the teams that are competing in the Elite Eight right now. I mean, I know you still have some big dogs in there, like Texas and UConn and Kansas State, but how can you not love the parity in college basketball right now? And as much as I love my Kentucky Wildcats, it's pretty refreshing not to see a blue blood in there.
No, I mean, it definitely is. I mean, I say this with college football all the time. I'm sick and tired of seeing Ohio State, Oklahoma, Clemson, Alabama, Georgia. Like, it's the same 5 teams every single year competing.
It was refreshing to see Tennessee this year.
Yeah, it was, but, they didn't make it into the playoff. But,
yeah.
Regardless, it's always good to see new teams competing in sports. And especially when, my team, Louisville, absolutely sucks this year. Kentucky had a little bit of a down year, lost early in the tournament. It's good to see some of these, unknown teams like a San Diego State, like an FAU. Kansas State has been an awesome story with their team, their whole pregame ritual where they're clapping and they're vibing as a team. I mean, this is awesome stuff, and this is what this NCAA tournament is all about, seeing, these teams that no one's ever heard of and coming out of nowhere and competing, getting big wins. That's what it's all about. So, seeing an Elite Eight with no number 1 seeds, no, true, big-time basketball programs out of the country. Like you said, Blue Bloods, a Louisville, a Michigan State. None of those big teams are there. It's all these underdogs, all these teams that no one expected to be here. And it's honestly really refreshing to just watch some new faces and some new programs get their opportunity to crack to go win it all.
Well, speaking of that Kansas State team, they are kicking off today, 5:09 tip-off. They'll be in Madison Square Garden. If you follow Joe Rexroad of our station, he'll be there covering it for The Athletic. Florida Atlantic, who took down Tennessee earlier this week, and Kansas State, who took down Michigan State. Their point guard, Marquise Noel, he hurt his ankle in that game, was able to be back in action, but I think that definitely plays a factor in today's game, and I think it plays a factor into why this line is so close on Superbook Sports. Kansas State was a 2-point favorite earlier this week, but it has dropped down to a 1.5-point favorite. I'm going to take Kansas State minus the 1.5. I think they have proven that they are a top team left in this tournament right now. What they did to Kentucky, what they did to Michigan State. I mean, this team is performing at such a high level with Marquise Noel, their point guard, with Keontae Johnson as well in there. So I'm going to take Kansas State minus the 1.5, Junie.
So in my mind, I want to pick FAU. I really want to pick FAU. This is one of those moments where my mind is telling me no, but my body is telling me to go with Kansas State. I'm 6-2 out of the Sweet 16. I think Kansas State, their athleticism, like you said, Marquise Knowles, he's awesome. Or Noel, I'm sorry, Noel. He's awesome. Set the record for assists in the NCAA tournament. I love the vibe of this Kansas State team. It seems like they're a really cohesive group, that they really gel with their head coach. I like what they got going on. Their bigs are super athletic too, and I think that advantage down on the post is going to be the difference in this game. Give me Kansas State.
Nick, you got any thoughts on this game?
Yeah.
As our betting extraordinaire?
Yeah, I was looking at the lines. It hasn't budged at all. It's been at 1.5 since the lines came out, and I'm leaning with y'all. Kansas State seems to be the play here. I mean, the last 10 for FAU is obviously 10-0. Last 10 for Kansas State is 7-3. I gotta go with Kansas State.
Okay, so it looks like we've got a sweep of Kansas State. Another game that I think is probably going to be one of the most exciting games. It's going to be a 7:49 tip-off tonight. UConn and Gonzaga. UConn is a 2.5-point favorite after absolutely dismantling that Arkansas team. Gonzaga survived a close one with UCLA hitting a couple late shots to ultimately move on to the Elite Eight, but I'm going UConn minus the 2.5. This one isn't hard for me. I think UConn has proven that they are one of the top teams in the country. I know they play in the Big East, but look at all the Big East teams that we've seen advance this far into the tournament. I think UConn wins by about 10 today, so give me UConn minus the 2.5, Junie.
Here's where I'm going to differ with you, Michelle.
Oh, Drew Timme.
I'm going with Drew Timme and the Zags. Listen, UConn has beaten Iona, St. Mary, and Arkansas, none of which are elite caliber teams. I feel
Arkansas is an elite team.
They're a good team. They're not an elite team. They're a solid team. They're physical. I get it. They're not elite.
They beat Kansas.
Yes, they beat Kansas, but, Kansas is going through their troubles without Bill Self, yada, yada. Regardless, it doesn't matter. Matchups are different. I look at Gonzaga, and I feel like that they've been the more tested team in this tournament, beating UCLA in a big win like that, a tight-knit game. I think this game against UConn is going to be tight, and I just think with the veteranship of Gonzaga, I trust them. I have not trusted them in years past. I just got a feeling about the Zags. I think they go back to the Final Four this year.
Okay, and some of the games for Nick, what do you think? UConn Gonzaga, any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm looking at the first half market right now.
Okay.
I think the first half total is at 72.5. It's a little bit high. I know, not supposed to live and die by the under. I think that's a little sprinkle. But if I had to give a pick on the game, I'd definitely take UConn money line.
Okay, cool. So 2 UConn, 1 Gonzaga. Creighton, San Diego State. This will be an afternoon game tomorrow, 1:20. Creighton, a 1.5-point favorite. They were pretty close, battling back and forth with Princeton yesterday. Creighton was able to, pull out at the end, couple late foul shots, and ended up covering that 10-point spread, which I had Princeton plus the 10. They won by 11. San Diego State takes down the number 1 team in the country in Alabama. Alabama, a team who wasn't really tested all tournament long, and even here in the SEC tournament. I'm going to go Creighton on this one, minus the 1.5. I think San Diego State had a very emotional, tough game going against Alabama, the number 1 team, the number 1 overall seed heading into this tournament. I think that carries a lot of emotion and carrying it over to, the next day. So I'm going to take Creighton minus the 1.5 on this one, Junnie. Even though I do love San Diego State, and I'm kind of wanting to root for them, I'm taking Creighton.
I'll tell you this. I have not watched a lick of San Diego State outside of the game that they played against Alabama, but what I saw was a very tenacious, physical defensive team that plays as a really good cohesive unit. They beat Alabama, where Alabama is a perimeter offensive scoring team, and they live and die by it. So I see Creighton as a very similar structure team that likes to shoot the ball from the outside. I think that the way that San Diego State played Alabama, they can carry that over to this matchup with Creighton. Give me San Diego State.
Okay, quickly, Nick, who do you got?
I'm taking San Diego State University money line.
Ooh, okay, plus 105 on the money line on Superbook. And then really quick, guys, rapid fire, Miami, Texas. Texas a 4-point favorite. Give me Miami plus the floor. Also taking them on the money line, plus 165.
I'm taking Texas. I think they're the hottest team in the country. I think they're the best team remaining in the field. So give me the Longhorns over the U.
Nick?
Give me Miami, first half money line, plus 134. You can get it right now. I think it's a good little juicy play.
I really like this Miami team, and I really like this UConn team to move on. I know we're both opposite in those two, but like we talked about before, I love this tournament. It's one of my favorite times of the entire year, and I think just the parity of it this year is just so refreshing and awesome not to see any blue bloods in there. So I also love Kansas State. So going to be an exciting round of games today, tomorrow. The Preds will tip off in just about an hour. Max Hers will have the pregame show starting at noon for you. Up first, he'll be joined with Scott Wise, who sculpted the Pecorine statue. He's going to tell him about that entire process, what it was like. Pecorine statue is out front in Bridgestone Arena. Continue the text on the text line. Tell us your favorite Pecorine moment. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, pregame show with Max Hers. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Every Wednesday at noon.
That fits the mentality.